Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
Watch this film. Be quite nice. Have a good time. Be very evil. You'll love that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And he used to say, "Hey, Greg Morgan," and he used to say, "Please call me Greg," and I wouldn't do it.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, SmackDown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cell.
And now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral role in his upbringing.
Don't you dare be sour.
We always talked about wrestling. He was a big Lou Thez guy, and of course I had an affectation for the Hackenschmidts.
Clap for Good Mic Work Commentaries.
This is RJ City, a wrestling rock on tour.
And feel the pow.
Listen to the podcast. Subscribe.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're going to have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
It's Saturday, and you know what that means. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We are here for your Winged Eagle podcast for August 14th, 2021, right off the heels of a brand new wrestling show that debuted last night for AEW Rampage, crowning a brand new Impact World Heavyweight Champion, which is crazy that actually took place last night with Christian winning the title. Pretty awesome, and AEW's got their Friday night show off to a great start. And that is going to be a primary focus of this podcast, along with a lot of stuff that I missed. I'm sorry I was not up here midweek. My work and my personal life right now is extremely busy between now and Labor Day, so things are just a little bit nuts. And I leave this Friday for Vegas for SummerSlam, so I have a lot going on. So I knew that next time after the Raw review that I was going to be able to get up here was going to be this Saturday Saturday where we're going to have to knock out a lot of stuff. So on the menu for today is all of the wrestling news that we missed. I'll talk about Meltzer's report of WWE's power struggle with Triple H and Vince McMahon. We'll talk about Keith Lee and his video explaining his absence, issuing congratulations to a wrestling couple expecting their first child. We'll talk about the King and the Queen of the Ring, Ric Flair heading to AEW. A sad death to report as Dominic DeNucci passed away. Chelsea Green's got boobs. We'll talk about that as well. And we've got Lashley tomorrow on Broken Skull Sessions. We'll also talk about last night's AEW Rampage and last night's SmackDown. Both shows pretty good. I really enjoyed the Roman Cena stuff, and there was a couple other things on SmackDown last night that I enjoyed, so that's a plus. We'll get into all the ratings of these shows. I'll briefly touch on what we missed earlier on in the week, a little bit of NXT, but not really. I'll mostly just run through and preview the TakeOver card, and we'll touch a little bit on Wednesday night's Dynamite as well, and we will run through everything we have, at least as of today, for SummerSlam in terms of the card, what may or may not happen, championship belt changing hands, cash-ins, all that type of stuff. We'll run through it all and a little bit when we talk about SummerSlam, and that's going to be pretty much it for today. But it's going to be a lot to unpack, a lot to unload, a lot to dive into because, you know, this is... I haven't been here since Monday night. So the Winged Eagle podcast is going to be a big one today, and I must let you know that I think we're going to start phasing out the Winged Eagle podcast. My life and my everything going on with work right now is really busy, like I said, until Labor Day. After Labor Day, things are really going to lighten up for me, and I'm going to be able to dedicate a little bit more time to the channel. So now, since we've got AEW firmly on Wednesday nights with NXT moving over to Tuesdays, and we've got Rampage now that airs right after SmackDown every Friday, my attempt going here on forward, starting this fall, we'll probably get a couple of more Winged Eagles, and then these will be done. And then starting this fall, my hope is that I can do 3 days a week, maybe 4. Mondays for sure for the Raw review, either Wednesday nights immediately after Dynamite for a Dynamite review, or Thursdays the next day for a Dynamite review, and going to try to continue coming up on Saturdays to discuss Rampage and SmackDown. But since we're going to have, you know, multiple streams talking about the current product, you know, I don't have to dedicate a whole podcast to 2 hours of discussion, you know, about everything I missed during the week. So that's going to kind of be the plan going forward. And then, of course, on Sunday nights, on pay-per-view weeks, we'll be doing a review, and I'm going to try to continue doing either the watch-alongs or random classic reviews on as many Sundays as I can. So you should see a lot of me starting this fall, but between now and Labor Day, things are going to be a little weird. I'm not even quite sure yet what you're going to get out of me this coming week prior to SummerSlam. We got 3 days in a row of streaming ahead of us right now, and tomorrow we're going to be doing a watch-along of SummerSlam 2002, which won both polls that I put up, one on YouTube, one on Twitter, and it won by a landslide. So we're going to do SummerSlam 2002 tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. The link to that is in the description below. If you want to go right down there, click it, hit it with a like, put it in your pocket, save it for tomorrow. We're going to be doing that. And then Monday night, of course, after Raw, we'll be up here for the Raw review. So my guess is I'll probably be up here on Thursday to discuss Dynamite, discuss a little bit of NXT, and the very next day, I'm driving to Vegas on Friday to hang out there and hopefully watch AEW Rampage and watch CM Punk's debut right there in Vegas somewhere in a bar. Still working on the details of that, but that's my plan this weekend. So in terms of the videos you're going to get out of me, maybe SummerSlam night when I get back to my hotel room, I'll turn on my camera or I'll turn on my phone and we'll do a live stream. You know, real basic, you know, real low tech and real amateur looking, but we can do it if I so choose. And if not, I'm coming home on Sunday. I'll try to come up here and do a live stream following TakeOver. And then, of course, Monday night after SummerSlam is here in San Diego, and I'm going to that too. So between now and the end of the month, it's crazy. Podcast video schedule is going to be a little jagged, staggered, somewhat not as quite as consistent as you're used to or as consistent as you're going to see in the fall. So just bear with me, and I appreciate your patience and your support and all that shit. I can't bore you for too long because we got a lot of stuff to get into, but let me say hello to the chat. And everybody that was in here waiting for me before I got here. I also pushed this podcast 30 minutes later than scheduled. I scheduled it for 2 p.m. here local time, but as I was getting ready, I was like, you know what? I could sure use an extra half an hour. So I just made a quick announcement. We're going to push it to the bottom of the hour. Just need a little bit more time to kind of gather my notes because I missed a lot of shit. I had to play catch up. I wasn't home on Wednesday to watch Dynamite Live. I wasn't home last night to watch the first Rampage or SmackDown Live either. I had to watch all that stuff when I got home. And man, how good was that Omega Christian match? match. Jesus, man. Very interesting decision to beat Kenny Omega ahead of All Out, but I have a feeling I think I know why they did it, and it might have something to do with Kenny Omega's match later today at Triple Mania against Andrade. Pretty sure he's going to drop that AAA Mega Championship or whatever the fuck it's called, and maybe if they are going to put the belt on Andrade, Omega losing right now is kind of a big deal, especially since he's, kind of on a roll. He's a champ. So if Omega's going to lose, AEW would probably prefer that just to be on their own TV show, which is probably why we saw what we saw last night. I think Kenny's going to cough up the championship to Andrade later today, and then at All Out, he'll defeat Christian and retain the AEW title. That's my guess. But that match last night was fun. That kill switch on the chair and that sell by Kenny, holy shit. So I'm excited to talk about that. Rampage was getting rave reviews from everybody because it's only an hour long, and they just packed in a ton of shit. It was only a 3-match card, but it blew by. It was a very easy watch, and it wasn't a chore like Raw is and like how SmackDown sometimes can be. But I think a 1-hour show, even if the numbers are good, I hope AEW holds off on extending that to 2 hours as long as they can. At some point, the network's going to want that, or, it's got a good chance of turning into what Thunder was. We don't want to see that. It's off to a great start. United Center next week. CM Punk's going to be there. It's going to be a huge deal. So Rampage is off to a huge start. Can it sustain that momentum and keep those shows hot every week? That still remains to be seen. Don't know if the taping schedule will ever get jumbled up or not either. If they're going to start taping some of those, we just don't know. But as of right now, that show that we saw last night was really, really good. And SmackDown wasn't half bad either, really building up to Roman and Cena. And I've got some interesting ideas about that match. I'm starting to change my tune. Here I'm thinking Roman ain't even going to think about dropping that title until next year. I'm not so sure now, especially with a certain 70-year-old heading on over to the competition. Maybe they want to take that record away from him as a big fuck you. It's kind of the way WWE operates. So I'm not so sure if the dude with bars of soap for teeth is actually going to retain the title or not. That line floored me last night, by the way, by John Cena. Good shit. But anyway, I promised you guys some shout-outs, so I'm going to do that real quick. Then I'm going to run through the patrons, and we'll start with the wrestling news after that. I am so happy to see you here, How Weezy. Good to see you, man. Yes, I am live today. Wouldn't miss this one. Mark Simpson, good to see you as well. 7 days and counting until CM Punk returns. I hope it's true. It's true. You just got to look at how it's all being played out. Like AEW, I think, did a really good job last night not announcing this. I hope they don't announce anything on Wednesday. Just let it happen. Everybody knows. If AEW wants to throw a little tease at us Wednesday just to remind every fan, hey, you're going to want to tune into this Friday to spark that big number, I can kind of understand why they would do that. WWE sure as hell would. But I think the type of fan base that AEW has, we all know what to expect. Tony Khan himself said, you know what to expect. We know what's going to happen. They would not be teasing this if it wasn't going to happen. This would be a very bad idea. It would really piss the fans off. And plus, the way CM Punk is acting, he's playing right into it, trying to pretend like he's got other shit to do. I think we all know CM Punk well enough now that he's got an incredibly short fuse. So if he was not going to AEW and all these rumors were circulating, CM Punk wouldn't play into it. CM Punk would be pissed. He'd sever relationships with 6 more friends. He'd be all mad. He'd criticize everybody. He'd lash out at everybody. That's just the way CM Punk is. So there's no way in the world that CM Punk would play into this. So he's going to be there in 6 days in the United Center. It's going to be fucking badass. It's his hometown. Imagine that pop when that happens. So it'll be interesting to see if they do say anything or tease it on Wednesday. I hope they don't. Just shut up. Shut up. Let it happen. We all know he's going to be there, so let's just wait for him to come out. He might open the show. He might close the show. We don't know. Just let us be. We know he's going to be there, so at least let his return be a surprise in terms of where he's going to be and what he's going to do. Now, I'm assuming could be a confrontation with Darby Allin, or, it could just be a promo, and then they save the confrontation with Darby until Dynamite to set up the all-out match. They got plenty of time to do that, especially if he's debuting in just a week. So we'll see. That's going to be interesting, man. I'm really excited, but don't worry, Mark. He is going to be there. Michael Kumo is here as well. Dark Angel, what's up? Elias is a new Fiend. I don't know. So, Elias would be a great Fiend, actually. He'd look pretty awesome, but, you can't. It's Bray Wyatt's, and everybody's just going to resent that. So I think the Fiend character died with Bray Wyatt's release. Big J in the house, Ben Forbes, Nate, Ben Espinoza is here. Roderick Zelius, good to see you. Daryl. Gizmo, what's up? Sean Robinson's here. Good. We got some Monkey Wrenches, Sonic Plays, Brandon. We got Charlie, Trey, Lil Justin, Lou Thompson, David Brown. Welcome back. I hope you're doing well as well. Thank you for being here. Jimmy Anderson from the Sweden is here. Thanks again for the super chat as always, dude. Happy you're here. I know it's very late or early for you or something. Good evening. Do you think Balor is going to screw over Cena at SummerSlam or the Raw after? Maybe. Balor is not letting that shit slide with Cena. I still think it's absolutely ludicrous how that all came to be. Cena just writes his last name with a Sharpie in all capitals like he's fucking 5, and he gets the match against Roman. Ridiculous. But I think maybe Balor and Cena could do some more stuff together. But we're going to talk about Roman and Cena. I think we're all assuming that Roman is just retaining. But after last night's promo, I don't know. I'm just, maybe there's a chance Cena could win, especially since he did more CM Punk teasing. WWE did more teasing of CM Punk last night than AEW did. So maybe CM Punk showing up on SmackDown next week, not Rampage. That would be crazy. But I think Balor and Cena doing something after the fact could certainly happen. I don't know. I would hate for them just to leave that unresolved, but that's kind of what WWE does. Zelius Ward, thank you for the $5 there. Appreciate that. Best wrestling YouTuber, I appreciate that. There's some pretty good wrestling YouTubers out there, and there's also some shitty ones. So if you put me in the category of good ones, that's all I ask for. I don't even have to be the best, but thank you for that, Zelius. Trey Williams, thanks for being here as well. Finn maybe cost Cena the match. Yeah, Roman does get a lot of help winning his matches, so that could set up a rematch or whatever. I don't know. And yes, Jay Hunt, I think Omega is going to drop the Mega title tonight at Triple Mania, and that's going to kind of play into all that stuff with All Out, where I do believe he'll retain. He'll start losing everything. Bucks kind of fucked up last night. You'll start seeing like an unwinding or an unraveling perhaps maybe in the Elite. Maybe not a full-blown split, but shit ain't good, and the only thing he's kind of got left is that AEW title. He's lost everything else, and he's going to fight to the death to keep that thing, and no way Christian beats him twice. So I think that he will lose the AAA title and then retain at All Out. What's up, Jason Meadows? You're going to be at Raw in San Diego as well. We will meet up. We will totally stop by each other's seats or do something or have a beer or whatever, Jason. That's awesome to hear. I'll get in touch with you or shoot me a DM on Twitter or something in the next week or so, and we'll coordinate something. Jimmy Anderson, appreciate you back with another one. I hope WWE puts pay-per-views on Saturdays more times. It's perfect for outside of North America, not have to worry about only like 2 or 3 hours sleep. That is true. Saturdays would really help international audiences because you don't have to wake up, most likely, at least for most people, like you would on a Monday morning to go back to work. So that would help you guys out. And there's a ton of fans over there where you live, and I'm all for helping y'all out. So me living on the West Coast, I can appreciate that, at least here in the States. Everything starts so early. Pay-per-views start at 5 o'clock. If you want to get up and watch football, you have to be up at 10 a.m. I'm not used to that. I'm used to the times that it used to be back in the day. So even with my small time difference of the 3 hours earlier than the East Coast, it presents problems for me in my life and my restaurant career and things like that in terms of coordinating stuff, and it's annoying as hell. But I couldn't imagine, if I was watching, like when I watch New Japan on New Japan World or something, I'm staying up late. Luckily, I'm a night owl, but if I wasn't, it would be very, very difficult to keep up with anything. So maybe we'll see more of that. I think maybe this might be a test. WWE hasn't done a Saturday pay-per-view in forever. I'm not even really sure why they went with a Saturday this time. So this could be a sign of more things to come. We'll see. I'm all for it. Clofix C, thank you for that. I'm not sure what currency that is in, but I appreciate the super chat there. Hey, Greg, do you think AEW would still have signed Show and Henry if they knew what talent would be available a month or two later? Those two guys, probably, yeah. Maybe some other ones, no. I mean, Show and Henry aren't going to be able to offer what Punk and Bryan or Bray Wyatt can offer. Show and Henry are veterans, guys that can be there as personalities or, mentors or just utilize their experience in a lot of ways more behind the scenes than on camera type of thing. So those two, I think they'd probably still come in. I'm cool with both of them being there, given their roles. If they're both in the main event of Dynamite and they're winning titles and shit, then I might have a problem with it. But in terms of what they do there, just being a recognizable wrestling talent, in the company, I don't think is really too much of a bad thing there. Although the 4-man booth I could do without. And I know Mark Henry didn't stick around for the whole show last night, but 4 people is way too many, especially with Jericho screaming at the top of his lungs. So not a fan of the 4-man booth on Rampage. I think that ought to do it, at least for now, for the shout-outs there. Thank you again to everyone who is here. Smash that thumbs up button for me. And if you are not subscribed, get your ass subscribed. Just do it. We're here a lot, and you're going to see a lot more of me once the summertime ends and my crazy-ass life settles down just a touch. I also want to shout out all of the Curtain patrons, including a brand new Patreon subscriber that started this week, Divine Ricks. Thank you very much for that $20 tier there, my friend. JJ Leg as well. Nikita Abalakin, Chris Miner, Super Fluffy Toaster, Deshaun Robinson, J Smooth 99, Martin Can, Alex Dredge, Apron Bump Podcast, Alan Carter, Brandon Yelverton, Nick Musser, Jimmy Anderson, Ryan Y, K-Dogs Kennel, John Reddifer, Devlin Husband, Claudio, Clavadesher. Devlin, I just saw your message on Twitter. I did not see Mike Barnes in the Cobra Kai Season 4 teaser. I did see Terry Silver, but I think Mike Barnes will be there. Claudio, Clavadetcher, Daniel Rodriguez, Barry MK, Josiah Blevin, Scott Moss, John Riffle, Michael Kumo, Naveed, Keith Salyers, and Blake Moran. As always, dudes, I appreciate all of your support, and y'all help keep the ball rolling on all the stuff that it takes to keep a podcast going. Thank you so much. Anyway, let me get back to our chat area here, so I got everything in front of me, and then we'll start rolling through this news. Jimmy Anderson, thank you again for another super chat. Very generous of you. I can see Show as some sort of a commissioner type. Yeah, I think he'll have some sort of a role, maybe even do, an ambassador type of thing. I think he would like to be featured a little bit more on TV, and he's on commentary, and he's decent from, what I understand. And I think occasionally getting in the ring will be fun too, but as of right now, he's kind of not had a huge role there. He's just kind of been there, which is all you would really think he would be doing anyway. So, just a new environment for him, been WWE for 20 plus years. Yes, thank you for that, Jason. We will totally do that. Anybody else that is going to Raw in San Diego a week from Monday, hit me up. We'll do a quick meetup. Also, I'm going to be in Vegas this weekend for SummerSlam. I know I'm going to meet a couple of people at the show, and I'm still going to be trying to find a place to watch Rampage. I really don't want to sit in my hotel room and do that, but I will if I have to. It's only an hour-long show. I've got to see CM Punk debut, so hopefully I can be somewhere where it's going to play. If not, I guess I'll just be sitting on my hotel bed with Elizabeth, waiting for that show to air, watch CM Punk, make a bunch of tweets about it, and then maybe we'll go hit the town or something. But SummerSlam will be fun. It's going to be a big show, I think. Hopefully we'll see a lot of great stuff, and we'll run through the card here in just a little bit. But let's start out with some wrestling news. There's all sorts of stuff going on this week that I haven't had a chance to talk about yet. Last time I was up here, like I said, was on Monday, and I think, I just yelled into the mic, I'm sorry, was on Monday, and I think that probably the most recent news story I remember talking about was probably the Max Caster stuff. So that's about as far as I got. Anything that transpired after that, I hadn't got a chance to really talk about this week. I even took about a day and a half, a full day and a half, nearly 2 days off completely of Twitter. Didn't even look at it. I was just busy. Life is so busy right now. So I was like, I can't even look at it. I just got to separate myself from wrestling for 2 days, get some shit done here at work, and then I'll be able to come back strong on the weekend. But I got to go to work right after this, and I got to work tomorrow morning before tomorrow night's watch along. Busy mic work, but I'll have a much more relaxing day on Monday. So you'll see a relaxed mic work on the stream Monday night. Anyway, I think we have to open up with the Observer's latest report concerning the power struggle in WWE regarding Triple H and Vince McMahon. Now, Meltzer was kind of reporting a bunch of stuff on this because, as we saw with that big slew of WWE releases last week, in the middle of Friday Night SmackDown, it looks like WWE is starting to internally change what, the identity essentially of NXT and what it's there to do. And we've heard everything from changing the logo, changing the music, and changing how it looks and how it's presented, and basically taking a step back. They were growing this brand as, a competing equal brand. Now it seems like it's going backwards in direction to where, like OVW or something like that was, just a little bit more polished up. Now NXT is still very good. There's a lot of good talent there. The TakeOver card coming up next week looks phenomenal. And so there's still, plenty of promise there in NXT. But, man, the way they have gutted this and the way we are hearing some of these reports, this is just Dave, editorializing. He's got a few sources in WWE. Everybody knows that. So, this is not all reporting as fact. This is, a lot of speculation as well. But, we were talking about it when all of the releases happened. With Triple H, I'm like, man, this guy, like Triple H or not everybody does. And Triple H is not perfect. Triple H does still, he can still have that WWE mentality where he just likes to blow a lot of smoke, and he can get a little testy at times or whatever. But at the end of the day, I would much rather have a wrestling mind like Triple H running things from a booking perspective, and maybe not in every aspect of WWE, but at least in terms of wrestling, storyline, storytelling, character building, shit like that. I prefer Triple H's vision over Vince's, any day of the week. So we all thought for all these years that Triple H is kind of being groomed to be Vince McMahon's successor. That's the way it was appearing to be, especially with the marriage to Stephanie and the way he kept moving his way up to the company. And then they basically gifted him NXT. Okay, this is yours now. This is your baby. Make it your own. He did. He made it a success. But then when AEW came around, it felt like that was starting to take a little bit of that audience. And that's a lot of what Meltzer was saying. Dave is kind of attributing it to AEW showing up and AEW just beating him and winning the war. Dave loves to say that stuff. We know how Dave feels about AEW. He's not exactly shy about it, so you can kind of take that with a grain of salt. But there is a little truth to that in terms of the type of wrestling audience that NXT had, because we used to talk about it back in the day when NXT would have these kick-ass shows, these kick-ass pay-per-views, these awesome feuds and these awesome matches. It's like WWE has created their own alternative under the very own umbrella. Like, we have been desperate for years to find something different than the same shit, different day vibe that SmackDown and Raw and main roster programming gives us. It's the same shit. Pay-per-views are good. Talent is good. They can definitely do some great things, but most of the time, it's very uninspiring what we see. And the fans were desperate for something else. And when Triple H started hiring a lot of the indie talent, bringing in guys from Ring of Honor and PWG and shit like that, and the indie audience and the smarter wrestling fans and the younger wrestling fans took notice. I'm like, oh, wow, they're signing these guys and they're putting them in an environment that's different from Raw and SmackDown. They're actually able to have these matches, have good matches. Even the early days of NXT, I remember being blown away watching Sami Zayn and Cesaro. And I'm like, this is the type of shit we need, man. And I was hooked ever since. And ever since I saw that one match, I think it was a TV match. They might have had a rematch at TakeOver. I can't remember the sequence. It was 7 years ago. But I was so impressed. I'm like, man, if that's what they're doing down here, I'm going to start paying attention to this. And then they started signing more guys. Then Kevin Owens came in and they signed Shinsuke Nakamura. And like, they were signing a lot of people that wrestling fans were familiar with already from their other work internationally or on the indie scene or whatever. They were coming in and, really scooping up all this talent and giving them a stage to perform on and giving us really good quality matches to where the fans started, much like they did in ECW, the fans started really supporting the brand. This is what I came here to see. This is what we wanted. Just like in ECW back in the day, they were so sick of school teachers and garbage men and the silly ass characters you would have in both companies, not just WWE, but WCW had a bunch of dumb shit going on too, the Dungeon of Doom and all this hokey pokey crap. And then ECW comes along and says, there is a wrestling audience out there that are adults and that don't need this Fruity Pebble bullshit, and we're going to give them that. We're just going to go over the top with it with blood and guts and staple guns and chainsaws and shit like that, and the fans loved it, and they just loved that product. It was an alternative. It was something else other than the status quo, and they clung to it. ECW, that's where all that came from. And then in NXT, they kind of recreate that same atmosphere or vibe with their audience, that they're so appreciative of the quality of the ring talent and the ring work and all of that. They're like, oh, such a breath of fresh air. Finally, if we can't stomach Raw and SmackDown, we have somewhere else to go. Granted, it's under WWE's own umbrella. Pretty interesting that they've created an alternative to their very own fucking product, but they did it, and it was a success, and everybody ate it up. I loved the takeovers. They were a hoot. They were a blast. Some of the best wrestling. We all considered NXT the best wrestling from an in-ring perspective in the world for a short time there. Over WWE's main roster, over New Japan, over everywhere. That was where the most fun was happening. And Meltzer suggests that AEW coming around, starting Dynamite, taking a lot of that audience, taking a lot more of that talent, it kind of took away a little bit from NXT's fan base. And I can understand that. There's a little bit of truth to that for sure, but I still think there was plenty of room for the two brands to, I suppose, exist or coexist. Maybe not necessarily on the same night, but I still think NXT would just be, if they just maintained, what they're doing with it, it would be a place for people to get work and get paid and for the fans to enjoy the product. I think WWE made some mistakes. They shouldn't have worried about putting it on USA and changing it to 2 hours and directly trying to compete with AEW. They consider them that they lost the war, although it's not like they were getting their asses kicked. Look at the ratings this week. What did NXT do? AEW got 979,000. I'm sorry, 989,000 is the number I have for Dynamite. NXT was 751,000. Yeah, that's a significant defeat, but it's not an ass kicking, It's comparable numbers. Talking about 200,000 people here, which is a lot. It's nearly 250,000 more turned into Dynamite, but it's not like they're trouncing them. It's not like they're getting triple their ratings or anything like that. NXT could have just adjusted. They moved to Tuesdays and just kept doing what they're doing, and I think they could have survived just fine because quality wrestling is still good. It's nice to see a lot of this talent come in and get rewarded for their hard work. Triple H seems really invested in their careers and their progress. The way he takes pictures with people and points to them. This is the guy, and he's just there. He's so supportive. And what we saw last night on Rampage, AEW tends to do a lot of that stuff too, and I like that. The fact that they came out there and they gave Fuego del Sol a contract after his loss to Miro. That was great shit. It felt like all a shoot, although somebody must have had to tell him to stay in the ring during the commercial. He seemed genuinely surprised, but he had to know something was up. When they're like, no, stay in the ring after commercial, he had to have been like, why? So he had to have known something was coming. But Sammy Guevara coming out there, Tony giving him the contract to give it to him in the ring. Little things like that what can help get you over. It's little moments like that is nice to see sometimes, guys, being, rewarded for their hard work, especially when the fans are behind them. You can't just reward everybody, but, when the fans are happy to see you and the fans want to see you and the fans love you, you deserve to be shown in front of those fans on a weekly basis. So little things like that are really nice. And AEW does give people contracts that some wrestling fans just snootily and I don't deserve to blah, 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 but the bottom line is a lot of that stuff can really help, I think, get talent over. You got to get over in different ways. You can't get over in the same way you did the 80s, so little things like that, I think, are a good way to help get fans behind a particular wrestler. And NXT did a lot of that. So AEW has taken a little bit of that vibe away from them. And there is a lot of wrestling going on right now, but WWE just having this reaction to say, okay, no more short guys, no more old guys or whatever, and going to more younger and bigger type of stars, Vince reverting back, to a formula that's worked for him in the past. I don't think this is a really great decision. I think they should have left NXT alone. Who cares if they get a little bit less than AEW in the rating? The AEW is trying, I think, to compete more with WWE than NXT. WWE threw NXT in AEW's way. They were able to hurdle that, and say, hey, we're not here to compete with them. We're here to compete with your red and blue shit. So then they realized that. I don't know if they're angry, and Dave is kind of reporting that there's different camps. There's a Vince camp and a Triple H camp, and some people don't like Triple H's vision. Some people may be concerned if Triple H is Vince McMahon's successor one day, that their jobs could be in jeopardy. Maybe somebody like a Bruce Pritchard or somebody like that. I don't know. This is all according to Dave, so just take it, like I said, with a grain of salt. But if there is this internal kind of struggle or turmoil behind the scenes, that is not a very good sign for WWE. I was always under the assumption that this company had their shit together enough that they can realize that Vince McMahon is getting fucking old. And even though he could live to be 100, I'm pretty sure Vince McMahon's mom is still alive, she's probably like 185 years old now. She's in her late hundreds. Vince could very well be kicking until he's 95 years old, which is another 20 years from now or whatever. But I always assumed that they did have a plan in place for succession. And from what we all understood and could see, it appeared to be Triple H. But if the business model is now changing, TV deals, and there's so much money at stake here. You're bringing in big time, executives to come in and run the company. There's rumors of a sale when the next TV deals come up. They could be set to sell this company to an Amazon or a Disney or to a Walmart or whatever the fuck. That could change everything in terms of what they had planned. But I don't like this feeling that it doesn't seem like we know what the hell is going to happen. I understand that Vince is still in great shape. He's still somewhat coherent. He's probably going to do this until he dies. But you still should have something in place in case he dies tomorrow. What if he just doesn't wake up or something? What do you do? Who is in charge? Feels like the whole system will just break down. So I kind of thought all these plans were in place, but when you hear about stuff like this, you really wonder, what is the future of Triple H in WWE? Triple H's booking style and his the way he kind of books television and books wrestling fits much more with AEW's philosophy, I think, than WWE's at this point. In terms of getting talent over and, rewarding their hard work and rooting for their success and shit like that. It seems like there's a lot of that. That kind of whole vibe is more in AEW, and it seems like could Triple H be all elite? Could Triple H go tell the old man, I'm going to go run this company or something like that? I mean, Tony Khan could probably use somebody like Triple H around him with all that executive experience in WWE, and plus, given Triple H's track record at NXT, I don't think he'd be that bad, for an AEW or whatever. But I always assumed Triple H was going to be WWE for life. Him and Stephanie would take the reins for Vince McMahon. Shane McMahon has now come back into the fold here in the last couple of years, and there's talk of him being a lot more, seen backstage, a lot more involved in some of the processes going on behind the scenes. So maybe Vince doesn't know. Maybe nobody knows who's going to take over this shit, but apparently it's a mess. And those releases that took place last week, Meltzer says that Shawn or Triple H were not consulted about these releases at all. They didn't even know about them until Laurinaitis was already making the calls. And that's just messed up, especially since how hard those guys work. And I know there's plenty of people, Triple H and Shawn are no saints. I know. I'm fully aware of what they do and who they are. But you can't look at them and say, and listen to the talent that they've helped work with and say that they don't give a shit. They've been very involved in the development of a lot of this talent, and a lot of this talent, if they do make it on to big things one day, become world champions in any promotion, they're going to talk about their time in NXT. I learned a lot from Shawn Michaels. Without him, I might not be where I am today. So, I mean, you can have it a lot worse in NXT. I know it's not all perfect and stuff like that, but in terms of, the coaching staff there and the world-class training they give and, how invested Triple H is in seeing these talents succeed, I cannot believe they're willing to gut it and shut that whole thing down just because AEW turned up, and they feel like, they're going to kind of take that away from NXT. Maybe they are, but it would also be a way to push NXT to do better. And hopefully now AEW is saying, forget NXT, we want to compete directly with you. And WWE has removed the hurdle themselves and just said, okay, come after us. Oh, by the way, we're going to release a bunch of people that you can sign, on top of that. So it's interesting what's going on behind the scenes. And like I said, when it comes to Triple H, or anybody like that, we've heard reports. I know Fightful Select reported on some morale issues in NXT, things being a little bit tense, morale being a little bit low. The once upbeat, positive environment that NXT is not so much that now because of all the corporate shit and, the BS taking place. And that's sad because NXT was a really solid place to work from what we understand. We never heard too many horror stories of wrestlers doing a podcast after they leave or something like that and just talking about how they were mistreated and how it's a toxic environment in NXT. All the comments have been mostly positive, not all good, but, for the most part, that's something that they're doing that works. And, them just completely ruining that is very odd to a lot of fans. So Meltzer's report here is basically that the belief is that Triple H failed and lost the war to AEW, and now WWE is going to go in a different direction with NXT, and there's people in a Triple H camp, there's people in a Vince camp, and there's all sorts of dissension and shit behind the scenes. Don't know the validity to all of that, but that's what Dave says. So we will see. And I can definitely believe 100%. I don't need Dave to tell me. I can definitely believe that Triple H is probably a little annoyed with some of the shit that's going on, given all of the work he's put into developing a lot of the talent they're just releasing without even consulting him. It is kind of fucked up. You know what I mean? But anywho, let me go knock out a couple of these super chats before we get into the Keith Lee news. because there's some stuff to talk about there. Victor Colon is back. Thanks for the $2. I think Cena is advertised for MSG so he could win at SummerSlam. Yeah, I mean, he's got to go do that movie, but I think, even if he had to do that movie, he could leave for 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever it is, go shoot that and come back, even with the title. Would not be that big of a deal. Plus, he did kind of tease blowing the kiss. He even put on Instagram, I think, a picture of CM Punk doing that when he beat him 10 years ago. So, yeah, I ain't ruling it out. We'll talk about it here in a minute. Spaz is back. What's up, dude? Thanks for the $10. Gonna get double cheap plugs in here. No problem. Spaz, the super biased NXT guy, tossed up a Rampage review. Also, Jake DeMarco and iFantasy booked a whole new Fed out of the COVID era releases. I think you mentioned that last time. That's probably an interesting looking federation. What's it called? And another one from you. 10 more, dude. Thank you for that Canadian 10. Also, I'd love to see Josh Alexander to use option C since he's still the X Division champ, and we'd get an all-Canadian special Josh Alexander for Christian Cage versus Christian Cage for the Impact title. Yeah, Cage is going to be going over there probably to drop that title, I would think, to somebody in Impact. That would work, and it is kind of cool just to see Christian Cage with a TNA title again. That's really, I never would have thought that that's something I would see. It kind of blowing my mind, actually. So it's about time to talk about that here in a minute. Yeah, sometimes I get Tony Khan and Nick Khan mixed up, and I say one when I mean the other. It happens, Ratnick. Don't sweat it. Antoine, what's up, dude? Thanks for the 10. Good to see you. I don't trust Meltzer. Not many people do. His inside sources lately have been feeding him fake news. Also, Triple H was not the person responsible for NXT failure. USA, they crapped on NXT when SmackDown got fired. Yeah, well, we know that. We know WWE internally is stupid. If they're blaming Triple H, they are fucking morons because it isn't his fault. It's their own goddamn fault. And the same goes with a lot of the talent that they brought up. Triple H worked so hard, developing them and getting them ready, for prime time in terms of in the ring, developing their characters and their personas. And then they bring them up to the main roster and do nothing with them, ruin them, don't even write any shit for them. They make Aleister Black sit in the room for a year. And then they blame Triple H because they don't know what the fuck to do with these people. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Yeah, I agree 100%. Triple H is not the person responsible, but that's what they think, and you can't change what they think, even though they are stupid. Can you guys do me a favor and smash that thumbs up button for me because they are sad on the likes. Help me out. The other big news that came out this week was regarding Keith Lee. Really wish I could have gotten up here and talked about this earlier, but Keith Lee posted a video, finally, on social media. Lee has been teasing this for a long time. He was teasing a big announcement, or not an announcement, but a big explanation, I should say, that he's wanted to tell fans the truth. He's wanted to let them know what is going on. He's been largely absent from TV since January. He just recently came back for a couple of matches. He's back now. But up until this point, fans were really wondering where he is, and a lot of fans were growing frustrated. And rightfully so. I saw a lot of people like smugly scolding, podcasters. You guys thought you knew what was going on with Keith Lee. I'm like, I don't think anybody was really saying anything out of the ordinary. We never once here on this podcast said that we knew what was going on with Keith Lee. We wanted to know what was going on with Keith Lee. And when you think of WWE, how they handle everybody else, two perfectly healthy talents like Aleister Black, like Bray Wyatt, who were just sitting there doing nothing, and there was no reason to keep them off of TV other than WWE didn't have anything for them, or just were too lazy to come up with anything when they're ready to rock and roll. It's not that far-fetched of an idea to think that they're doing the same thing with Keith Lee. So as long as nobody was reporting it as fact, which I don't think anybody was, I don't think there's really a reason to get upset there. It's not out of the realm of possibility that WWE will leave a supremely talented person sitting on his ass for no reason. They do it all the time. In this case, however, Keith Lee wasn't being unjustly not used or, being ignored or we don't have anything for you or anything like that. He had some legitimate health issues, some scary health issues. Now, we did know that he did battle COVID in January. We knew that. Mia Yim did as well. And he explained in this video that she actually missed her Royal Rumble appearance because she was there to take care of Keith Lee, and then, of course, she got COVID as well. I remember a lot of fans were assuming that she gave Keith Lee COVID or something. They were, attacking her. But what kind of audience would really do that? Or what percentage of the audience does that? It's the extremely depraved loser motherfuckers, and they don't deserve any time here. But there were those people giving her shit, and he kind of wanted to set the record straight there. No, she took care of me, and she sacrificed herself for me. And then she was out. Well, after he was, he got through the COVID, he came back and had one TV match, I think in February with Matt Riddle. And then he said that he got a call saying that they found some issues with his heart when they were doing his blood testing or whatever. So he had some sort of a heart issue, an inflamed heart, and they were telling him that he really couldn't wrestle with this condition. And this went on for months, and this was very scary for him because not only is this a career-threatening thing, it could be a life-threatening thing. And they didn't really know what was going on other than he had a lot of inflammation, and they were trying to deal with it, trying to treat it, trying to figure it out. In time, the inflammation wound up going away, and he was able to be cleared to wrestle, and that's when we have seen him most recently on TV. So he did have a pretty big health scare there, and he did hint to that a couple times. He seemed to really be pining for the opportunity to tell us what was going on, and you could tell by some of the tone that this wasn't frustration with WWE. This was, something a little bit more serious than that. So turns out that at least right now, everything is fine. He's cleared. He's healthy. He's COVID-free. Heart is good. He's back in the ring. He picked up a huge win a couple weeks ago against Karrion Kross. And, hopefully he'll be back and just utilized to somewhat, of his potential, because this guy is really good. If WWE is, wanting to go back to these big guys, you got a star right here, not only a guy that's big and strong, but can move and can wrestle. So hopefully Keith Lee remains healthy. All the best to him. He is just a terrific human being. He came off very sincere and very genuine in the video. He even said he took a couple of takes doing it because the first time he talked too long. And, this is something he didn't have to share with any of us. It's not our fucking business, but he wanted to be transparent and let everybody know what the deal was with him so there weren't any of these false accusations running around, anybody pointing the finger unjustly where it shouldn't belong. But when you think about people maybe being upset with WWE about Keith Lee not being around, it's kind of what they do. So the fans weren't necessarily wrong in at least speculating that might be the reason. But Keith Lee now setting the record straight, I thought was very good. And just from here, we just wish him the best. Wish him the absolute best. Speaking of people we want to wish the best to, congratulations, Johnny Gargano, Candice LeRae, expecting their first child. I don't even know when Candice was in the ring last. I don't know how long she's been pregnant or whatever. Apparently, I think she found out in May, which has been a couple of months now. Has it really been that long since she's been in the ring? That's pretty interesting. But anyway, they got a little one on the way. So the way is going to take a hit there. Haven't seen Austin Theory in quite some time. Candice is now going to be taking time off, I'm sure. And, Indy is with Dexter. That might leave Johnny Wrestling by himself again. So before the Way even got going, feels like the Way might be dead, and that's kind of a shame because I really like that faction. But best of luck to them. That kid is probably going to kick out of the womb. He's going to be born. He or she is going to be born wrestling. Couldn't be happier for those two. They are two extremely nice people. And best wishes to the Garganos. Little one on the way. A little Johnny or Janie Wrestling is coming out. Should be seeing Becky Lynch any day now. She's been training. She's been in the ring. Everybody knows this. She's poised, set, and ready to come back. I think at this point, she's either going to come back at SummerSlam or the Monday Night Raw after. Both shows I will be at. I think there's a very high likelihood that I will see the return of Becky Lynch in person. That's pretty cool. We got some news also yesterday. WWE announced that the King and Queen of the Ring. Now, the Queen of the Ring was already announced. WWE said they are going to do a Queen of the Ring tournament. We didn't really know when that was going to go down, although we did hear October as the time frame there. They are also announcing that the King of the Ring will be returning as well. I think they will probably just run parallel to each other or in sequence with each other on TV and in October. And the finals of both tournaments will be held at Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia. So I don't like those Saudi Arabia shows at all. But I guess if you're going to crown a king and queen of the ring, that's probably a good place to do it or whatever. And I guess they'll do the TV matches or the tournament matches on TV. I don't think it's all going to be at Crown Jewel. Although I'd be fine with that, if they just did a Queen and King of the Ring tournament, one men's match followed by a women's and just alternate until you get to the end, why not? But I don't think it's going to be done that way. Probably on TV, you'll do the finals at Crown Jewel, and we all want Xavier Woods. He wants to be King of the Ring. He's wanted to be King of the Ring for a long time. I think there are two potential winners for the King of the Ring, Xavier Woods or Baron Corbin. Now, we're going to talk about Mr. Corbin in a minute because that dirty spaghetti-stained motherfucker ran away with Big E's briefcase. They better not give him that Money in the Bank briefcase. I think he's going to wind up losing that back or getting it stolen back, or Big E's just going to beat the shit out of him and stuff him in a toilet and take the briefcase back, and he's going to be so down on his luck, that he's going to have no choice but to go after the crown, and which is kind of weird because WWE seems to be conflating the King of the Ring winner and the King. These kind of are two separate things. Once you win the King of the Ring, it's not a championship that you defend. Now, the crown would sometimes be on the line back in the Wrestling King days of Harley Race and Haku and Macho Man Randy Savage and guys like that. The crown would be on the line, but when the King of the Ring tournament came around, you just win. You're just that year's winner. That would be like having a match for the Andre the Giant Battle Royal Trophy. Why would you do that? So I'm wondering, even though October's still a ways off, if Baron Corbin is actually just this broken down human, and by then his hair is really long. He's still rare. His spaghetti stained shirt is like brown now, and he goes and wins the crown to get the money he needs to repair his life. Now that's like 8 or 9 more weeks of sad Baron Corbin, which I'm fine with, but I think the fans would prefer Xavier Woods. But even if it wasn't Xavier Woods, you could do some fun stuff with Xavier Woods. This would be a great place to break up the New Day if you wanted to do that. Xavier Woods, maybe as much as I love him, he probably is the third best. I hate to even say that because he's great. He's the third best of the New Day, or the third most successful. Big E and Kofi. Kofi especially has had a lot of success. Big E's on the cusp of that success. So maybe all Xavier Woods has is to win the crown, and then maybe somebody can turn on him. One of his, I don't ever want to see the New Day turn, but maybe Big E or Kofi could turn on Xavier Woods, cost him the crown. Baron Corbin wins the crown, and Xavier's is heartbroken, and then he's out for revenge or something. But you could do something like that. But Xavier Woods is my pick to win it, unless they really want to stretch out Baron Corbin winning the crown back, which I think would be funny because by then so much time would have passed. The fans might be over it anyway, but I think even the biggest Baron Corbin haters have mostly appreciated the what he's put into this gimmick. Like, he's all in on it. He's doing a great job. I mean, he actually kind of for a second will make you feel sorry for him a little bit, even though I think the story here, a lot of people are kind of criticizing the angle, saying that it's making fun of and poking fun at poor people or homeless people or whatever. And I'm not looking at it like that. Maybe that's what ties into the state JW and the overly sensitive and the snowflakes or whatever. I'm not really looking at the angle like that. I'm looking at the angle more like what the biggest lesson my dad ever taught me when I was a kid. I've repeated it several times on this podcast throughout the years. What goes around comes around. And I think the story here with Baron Corbin isn't WWE poking fun and making light of people in financial trouble or are poor or whatever. I think it's WWE saying, look what happens when you are such a raging fucking asshole to everybody in your life. It's karma. Do good things, you get, you'll live a good life. If you're a fucking asshole, sooner or later, things are going to come around and bite you in the ass. And when you need help, when you need support, when you need people to be there with you, you've burned all those bridges, and now look at you. You are suffering. You did this to yourself. They're not just making fun of poor people. They're saying this is the result of you being such an asshat. And that's the message I think this storyline is telling. So I've always been a big believer ever since I was a kid. What goes around comes around. It does. Consistent as gravity. Just live life and you'll see what I'm talking about. So I think that's more the storyline there. And if Baron Corbin makes it all the way and he's still poor in October, by now he's just eating out of trash cans and shit, then he's got to win the crown. We'll see. Best of luck to Baron Corbin. We'll talk about him again in a minute because on SmackDown, I guess he's got a phone now on his mom's family plan, and Kevin Owens is going to pay him $1,000 if he could beat him in a match. Of course, he couldn't, and his woes continue. Although he's got some life breathed into him now with the potential of winning or keeping the briefcase. Although I'd be very disgusted if WWE took that briefcase away from Big E. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Also, according to The Observer, Meltzer is reporting something that's not a huge surprise here, that Ric Flair is indeed heading over to AEW when his no-compete ends, which should be somewhere in the neighborhood of Full Gear. So he'll have that 90-day. he'll be able to turn up on AEW. We are going to see Ric Flair walk back out on TNT. Never thought we'd see that again. That's kind of cool. I would love for them to reform a Four Horsemen. I remember last year, I remember learning that Arn Anderson had trademarked the Four Horsemen name. So he owns the rights to that. He did run into some trouble, I think in 2020 or 2019, filing that trademark. But from what I understand, he got it all worked out. So they can use the Four Horsemen name. And if you get Flair, Arn, Tully, and anybody else who can still walk and get Wyndham in there, or maybe even a Sid or somebody like that, you got Dean Malenko, of course, who was already there, and you can create, maybe a new Four Horsemen faction in AEW. Not that AEW needs any more factions, but I would love to see, the Four Horsemen used and the Four Horsemen name be used. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Cody. Cody kind of gets the Triple H comparisons. Triple H headed up Evolution with Ric Flair as the JJ and the occasional wrestler. Now Ric Flair can be the actual JJ because Ric Flair is 72 years old and he better not get in the ring. I don't think he is. But if he came back and headed up a new Four Horsemen faction, I think Cody Rhodes or MJF would be excellent candidates to run or to be the face of the Horsemen. And you put FTR in there as well. Maybe if it's Cody and FTR and I don't know who the fuck else you can have as the Sid or the Wyndham of the group. Could be anybody. So I'd kind of like to see that. I think that would be cool to see Four Horsemen wrestling on TNT. Just something about that. Hey, I'm 44 years old, so I gotta, I appreciate my nostalgia. So I'm actually kind of happy to see Ric Flair go in there just because of the history, and AEW really does have. They show a lot of respect to WCW and that time period and that era. So I think they'll seeing Ric Flair there and doing something with Sting even might be fun. Not a match, of course, but maybe Sting punches him on the outside of the ring and who knows what happens. But Flair is going to be showing his face in AEW to keep an eye on Andrade to make sure he's behaving himself over there. We've got some sad news to report. Wrestling death. Dominic DeNucci passed away. I did not write down his age. I believe he was 89. Now, DeNucci is a long-time legend, very old-time legend. He started wrestling, I think in the 50s before WWE was even a thing. Wrestled all over the world, including WWF in Australia and England and Canada, all over the U.S. and St. Louis and the NWA territories. Wrestled for Big Time Wrestling in Detroit, wrestled for the NWA, wrestled everywhere. He's most known for who he trained. He trained Mick Foley, along with Shane Douglas, Brian Hildebrand, and a bunch of others. And DeNucci has always been highly credited by Mick Foley in his books and all of the Mick Foley biographies and things like that. I mean, Dominic DeNucci is the reason we have Mick Foley. And he was very, very, very beloved, won lots of championships, even in WWE. I know he was a tag team champion with Bruno. Back then, they had like an international tag team. It was not light heavyweight. I think it was an international tag team title back in the WWF days. And then he also won the WWF tag titles, in the 70s with Victor Rivera and Pat Barrett. Like I said, he trained Mick Foley, and I have written down that he wrestled as late as 2005 against Ivan Koloff, somebody who used to live in the same town I did. That's crazy. 2005, I had no idea he was in the ring, but he always stayed active. He always did appearances. I know he's been inducted into several Wrestling Hall of Fames, Cauliflower Alley Club, all that stuff. Huge legend, nice tribute by Foley and everybody else in a lot of the wrestling community. Said a lot of nice words about him when they learned of his passing. So rest in peace to a true legend, Dominic DeNucci. He was the fucking man of, of a lot of different eras, but particularly that, that 60s, 70s era before wrestling really changed. He was a big name there. And he gave us Mick Foley. So rest in peace to Dominic. Condolences to his family, friends, and all that stuff. R.I.P. Interesting story here I came across when I was making notes. I was reading Chelsea Green did an interview. And she was I forgot to credit who the fuck did the interview. So she's recalling her time in WWE, and I guess apparently back when she injured her wrist, she had, this is on her own podcast. Okay, so it's her Green with Envy podcast. And she talked about that she wanted to get breast augmentation done. And she wasn't being used on TV or anything in WWE, so she emailed them, hey, I want to get the surgery done. just want to let you know. And they're like, no, you can't do that. We're going to use you for TV. And she's like, oh, okay, good. You know, that's no problem. I'll just get it done when I'm not on TV. Good. They're bringing me to TV. Well, then they didn't use her. And so like some time was going by. She's like, shit, I could have fucking had this done. And then when she got injured, they finally did bring her to TV. She debuted, then she broke her wrist. And then she was saying in the podcast that when she was in there, when she was recovering from the wrist surgery, I think she needed surgery on her wrist. She was like, well, I'm going to be out for a little while. So after, I guess, multiple emails asking WWE, she even CC'd everybody in the company saying, can I get this surgery done? And they ignored her or they said no or whatever. She just got it done on her own when she was out for the wrist thing and didn't really tell a whole lot of people about it. So I found that to be a funny story, the way she was talking about how she was really wanting to get her boobs. And I guess I wasn't paying attention. I thought... So that means she didn't have them when she was doing that Robert Stone stuff, when they were doing the vignettes by the pool and all of that. I guess I just am not paying attention to Chelsea's boobs. Chelsea, I apologize. I will do better. I will do better from here on out and pay more attention to that. I had no idea, but that was a really interesting story of like what I thought it just highlighted well what it takes to get anything done in WWE. If you want to get some surgery, elective surgery, you're not being used. To have to get WWE's consent to do any of that stuff makes me sick. But, she tried to go through the right channels and tried to do it, and they were just being funny about it, so she did it on her own. So maybe that's part of the reason why she got released too, like when Miro cut his hair and they freaked out on him or whatever. So I found that to be a funny story. It's a good read up or a good listen if you want to check out her latest podcast and listen to her tell that story. Pretty funny stuff. The only other thing I've got left in my notes to talk about is Bobby Lashley's appearance on Broken Skull Sessions, I believe, is tomorrow, correct? So I may or may not get a chance to watch that late tonight. Probably not, but I might be able to. If I do, we'll talk about it a little bit in tomorrow night's SummerSlam 2002 watch-along. If not, we'll cover that on Monday night during the Raw review. So that is coming up tomorrow, and that should be a pretty good watch. And I hope this is... And correct me if I'm wrong. Help me out here. I'm pretty sure, now that I think about it, wasn't Drew McIntyre's Broken Skull session right before his Goldberg match too? And I think that was one of the reasons why I was adamant about him not dropping the title to Goldberg at the Rumble. I said, no way. His Broken Skull sessions just came out. It's all about Drew right now. No, they're not going to do this. I kind of feel like it's the same thing with Lashley here. So I think his title is going to be safe at SummerSlam against Goldberg, and or at least let's hope. And we've got him on Broken Skull Sessions tomorrow. That should be pretty awesome. Looking forward to that. Really interested to hear him tell his story because I've never learned much about it. I mean, I know the basics of Lashley's history, where he came from and where he's worked and stuff, but very little about his personal life. Is he still married to, what was it, Crystal? What was the girl's name, the diva's name? Anyway, I don't even know. So I'll be excited to see that. Lashley is hell of a good-looking champion, man. Interested to hear him on BSS with Austin tomorrow. I guess that is it for the news. We need to get into Rampage now. I want to talk about that just for a couple of minutes. Let me cruise back over here to the chat and knock out any more super chats that I missed while I was flapping the gums. Do me a favor as well. Smash the thumbs up button for me. I'd appreciate it. Antoine's got 5 more. Thanks, dude. Woods, Corbin final. Yeah, Woods, Corbin final is an absolute must, I think. Woods wins, then we get suicidal Corbin. That was too much. Yeah, the thing is, too, like if they really stretch this out, Corbin has got to be this character for a while. As good as he's doing with this character and everything, I still think something like this kind of has a shelf life. Like you just can't be just a depressed piece of shit for so many weeks in a row. You're just walking around. Like eventually, like that's got to get old. And as a matter of fact, per the stipulation last night in the match with Kevin Owens, he's not supposed to be doing that anymore. Owens said, if you win, I'll give you $1,000, but if I beat you, no more of this pathetic shit. And he lost. So this might be coming to an end for him. I don't know. But if he has to go all the way to King of the Ring, I can't see him being this exact same Baron Corbin. Maybe things start looking up. Maybe he gets just enough money, or he wins enough matches to get enough money to kind of keep him afloat, give him a hot meal, wash his dirty ass, and he's got just enough money to like survive, and then he goes after the crown. It might have to be something like that because he can't eat Happy Meals out of the trash until October. At some point, that's got to cool down. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I'm loving the work of Corbin. I've always low-key had Corbin's back. You guys know that. I've never I don't like his dumb face and anything about his dumb face, but he has good matches and he knows what he's doing. He's valuable, and fans just, they're blinded by their, disgust for people. They can't see simple shit that's sitting right in front of them. He ain't bad. And I'm turning the page on Corbin a little bit. He's doing a great job in this whole entire angle. Zane G, thanks for the $5. Hate to burst the bubble. I have a bubble to be burst? That sucks. But I remember Lesnar received a title shot at SummerSlam as a reward for winning the King of the Ring in 2002. Everybody did. Why is that a bubble burster? What did I say? I forgot what I even said, why that would be bursting my bubble. Back in the day, you usually got a title shot really quickly after winning King of the Ring. A lot of times. Like Owen did, Mabel did, Austin did not. Who won in 97? Triple H did not. Who won in 98? Kenny did not. Okay, so I guess not all the time. Billy did not. So I guess it didn't happen all the time, but it was understood that that is a stepping stone to the title. So the winner of this year's, it would stand to reason that they would get a title shot, but I'm not sure what I said that makes that a bubble burst. Sorry, Zane, I got a terrible memory. My bad. Deshaun Robinson, good to see you, man. Corbin's misery, and thank you for the $5. Corbin's misery will come to an end because reports are that WWE has trademarked Happy Corbin, so something is coming. Okay, yeah, so they actually went out of their way to trademark Happy Corbin. God damn, who would go out and even trademark that to begin with? Like, who would even think to trademark that? They got to trademark everything. Everything, I swear. So funny. So, okay, they've trademarked Happy Corbin. So, yeah, that means, and that's probably going to start this week because he stole that briefcase and Kevin Owens said that he can't do that bullshit anymore. So things might start finally looking up for Corbin. Although, I'm like we'll talk about in a minute, I'm very much against him keeping that briefcase just because he stole it. That's stupid. So that can't be happening. Because if that's the case, then people are just going to run out there and try to steal it every time. Oh, Crystal is married to someone else. Who is she married to? Crystal Marshall, yeah. I swear I thought they were together. They must have broken up. That was like 15 years ago, so I don't know. I'm way, way, way behind on that, on Lashley's personal life there. It's good to see you, man. Good to see you, Adam Urbanski. Welcome back. Yeah, Slim Jim, tell me about it. I don't know where the Lex Luger documentary is either. I thought they announced a date to release that, and I kind of forgot it might be SummerSlam. It might be that night, or it might be Saturday or Sunday next week. I think on the Luger stuff, but I'm also not totally sure on that either. Ratnick, they'll announce Goldberg on Broken Skull next week. Hasn't he done it? I think Goldberg's done Broken Skull. I think. Pretty sure he has. I know Goldberg. I thought it was Goldberg, Angle, Brett, Taker. Those are some of the big names. We've seen Randy Orton now, correct? Flair has been on there, I think. Yeah, so... Yeah, God, no Goldberg. You better not win the title. Anyway, let's talk about last night's AEW Rampage. I've been rambling for an hour about bullshit and news. We haven't even gotten into last night's show yet. And, of course, this was a very condensed, easy watch, hour-long, very action-packed, kept your attention the whole time. I had to come home and watch all of these shows, and a lot of times when I do that, when I can't catch stuff live and I have to make podcast notes, I'm skipping through a lot of shit and getting down what I need to get down. I was able to watch this thing straight through with very little interruption other than just skimming through the picture-in-picture or commercial stuff. And it was, I really like the hour-long show. It doesn't add too much. I mean, you just come off 2 hours of SmackDown. I don't know if most people are going to want 2 more hours of wrestling, but 1 hour of wrestling that moves much faster than the show you were just watching and is booked differently, I think is manageable. And even though it's got a wonky time slot, I'm going to look right now. I haven't seen the numbers. I don't know if they're out yet on Rampage. I'm not seeing anything yet on the ratings for AEW Rampage. Really curious what kind of numbers they're going to do. They're not going to do Dynamite numbers. They're probably not even going to do NXT numbers. I think they're going to be in that 500,000 range given their time slot there. But you never know. Will be interesting to see what they do. Next week should get a big goddamn rating, that's for sure. But like I said, Rampage last night was in Pittsburgh, just like Dynamite was. We kicked off things with a 4-man booth. So they had Mark Henry, Chris Jericho, Excalibur, and Taz all calling this thing, which is way too many. Now, I think Henry was kind of in and out, but Jericho, Excalibur, and Taz, they might have to find a better way to do this because Jericho was doing an awful lot of screaming. I don't mind Jericho on commentary as a color guy, but he was I don't know, they kind of was a lot of stepping over each other, and that's got to get better. Excalibur needs to be the lead here, and he needs to try to, just kind of manage all these personalities and stuff, but that's not easy to do, and it's going to take them some time, I think, to kind of, get their footing. But 4 men is way too much. I've always thought 3 was kind of unnecessary, so 4 is really super ridiculous, and I think they need to shave some of that off and make some adjustments to the commentary booth if things don't get better. I think they should keep an eye on that for sure. The match that opened the show was set on Dynamite. They even said that the match is going to open Rampage. The very first match in Rampage history is for another wrestling promotions world championship. That's pretty crazy. So Kenny Omega is defending the TNA and Impact titles against Christian, and this was a phenomenal match. So good. Now, Christian, they announced on Dynamite, which we're going to kind of backtrack in a little bit and just touch on Dynamite this past week. On Dynamite, this match was set up, not only this match, but also All Out, which means Christian is going to get 2 title shots against Kenny Omega. Now, of course, all the fans have been clamoring for Hangman Page. We all have been assuming for months now that All Out is the destination for Hangman to beat Kenny Omega for the title. It seems like those plans have changed now for a couple of reasons. Number one, Hangman Page is going to be taking some time off to spend some time with his family ahead of the birth of his first child. Now, this is interesting because this is just interesting timing because Page is, the hottest he's ever been. There's been countless other. Most wrestlers throughout history have sacrificed things like the births of their child, over their career. It's kind of nice that, this is something that's very important to Page, and even though he's being used primarily on TV, he's a top contender for the title. All signs are pointing to him to eventually take that title off of Kenny, and he's going to take time off. Not only is I think that's admirable that that's something he wants to do, it's also admirable that AEW is willing to have him do that, because that's not the way things used to work back in the day. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, famously, after winning the title in the greatest wrestling match in history at WrestleMania 3 against Macho Man Randy Savage, Intercontinental Champion, wanted to take a little bit of time off to be with his wife while their first kid was born. Vince said no, and he dropped the title and left and went to the NWA. Back in the day, these things weren't even an option. So I think it's kind of cool that a company is willing to do this and say, okay, we'll readjust. And it actually kind of works out because I think like a lot of the thinking around this, Christian getting the 2 title shots, you could tell the fans weren't happy about it, but I think AEW is trying their best to try not to maybe upstage Adam Page's title win. When that happens, when he beats Kenny Omega, it should be a big, glorious moment. If that's happening on the same show that CM Punk is making his in-ring return, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago, that could factor in here as well. But if he's just going to take a few weeks off to be with his wife, I have no idea when his kid is due to be born. I'm assuming it's soon because they kind of wrote him off TV in the ass kicking there a couple of Dynamites ago. If he's going to do that, you can tread some water, kill some time with Omega dropping all these other titles and then retaining against Christian at All Out. And then you still have Arthur Ashe like 3 weeks after that. So you got that big Arthur Ashe Stadium show. That could be the new destination for Hangman Page because even though he's kind of been pushed out of this title picture for the moment, they still left that storyline going. The entire Elite brutalized him, just beat the piss out of him in the middle of the ring, putting him off TV for a while. He's going to come back from that, and he's going to look for the ultimate revenge, and he's going to be able to catch them in a vulnerable position when the Elite is starting to have a little bit of dissension, maybe crumbling around the foundations a bit. Plus, he's lost a lot of his championship belts, 2 to Christian, 1 seemingly or assumingly to Andrade later on today, and Page can come back in and put him down. Maybe Omega could turn into Baron Corbin. Omega could do something. I think Kenny would be great in a similar role to Corbin, to where he's lost everything, lost all of his championships, lost his titles. Even Don Callis dumps him, and he can just walk around growing his hair out, eating SpaghettiOs out of a can. Might be kind of funny. I don't know. But I still think all that is going to happen. So Christian and Omega have their first match here. It opens up Rampage, which is very cool. This match was all over the place and a lot of fun. Christian proves to me every time he's in the ring, he still has a hell of a lot left in the tank. And, his outwork everyone slogan, he really whether he succeeds at that or not, he really truly goes out there and attempts to achieve that. He is going all in on this, no pun intended. And the match here was so fun. It was all over the place. It got a little clunky at the end because the Bucks, who brought a chair into the ring, incidentally, they're causing all sorts of distraction. And also, so is Don Callis, and I think the referee is Brian Hebner. And it feels like he's distracted just a little bit too long over there. But the finish was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Omega comes in for the attack. I think Christian grabs him, counters, reverses into a kill switch, and you have the chair that's sitting there, unfolded, it's sitting there straight in the ring, and Christian hits a kill switch on Omega, and Omega just plants himself right into the chair. His head just sticks right to the bottom, his feet straight up in the air. He goes down. Christian picks up the chair, throws it out of the ring, dives on top of him for the very dramatic 1, 2, 3. Excellent finish to what was an excellent match. Maybe could have done a little bit better at the very end there with the finish, but overall, that was fun. And that's what it's all about for me. I want to watch a wrestling show and have fun doing it, and that was fun all the way around there. So congrats to Christian. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about beating Kenny Omega ahead of All Out. I mentioned that last week. I'm like, is that really what they want to do? Omega is on such a roll. When he loses, it should be a big deal. But I think they're kind of changing gears here a little bit, and they're just going to prolong the Adam Page victory a little bit longer to allow some other stuff, not only with him, but Omega to play out. And like I mentioned earlier on in the beginning of the podcast here, I don't know the circumstances of this, but I can see it from AEW's point of view, even though on the surface, I'm really questioning the decision to beat him before All Out, or before he loses the AEW title. But I can kind of see that because, he's got AAA's title. He's got the match against Andrade later today. What if I don't know how these booking decisions work or who's in charge. I would assume a promotion is going to be in charge of their championship. So if they tell Kenny, we want you to drop the belt to Andrade, maybe AEW is thinking that they don't want Kenny's big first loss to be on somebody else's show. Might as well do it on our show in front of our audience on our cable TV show. And that's what they did. So I think they kind of didn't try to one-up AAA or anything like that, or the Triple Mania show. They just wanted to make sure that moment took place with them. So that could have played a role as well. If they started hearing that, okay, Kenny, when you have the match with Andrade, you're going to lose that, they had to change their booking around a little bit to help with that, I think. So those are some of the things you could experience with all of these forbidden doors being kicked open, is that sometimes plans are going to have to change depending on what current plans are set in place type of thing. So you're juggling a lot of stuff and juggling a lot of decisions. The way this was all pulled off, I think can actually work and can still set Hangman Page up for a huge title victory at a big show. And like I said, that Arthur Ashe show on September 22nd is looking like a pretty nice destination for that, provided everything is good to go with Adam Page's personal life and he can get back into the fold here, because they'll bring him back to TV and he'll get another shot at this. But I think since Omega dropped the title last night, I think he's going to drop another one today to Andrade. That is pretty much a lock for Omega at All Out, retaining against Christian. I am very surprised that they are doing 2 matches. I thought originally, before the news of Adam Page taking time off came out, I thought Christian would get the first match, but then they would do something to where Page can come in. Maybe they're doing a contract signing and Page attacks Christian and writes his name in like John Cena did, or something like that, and they will go with Hangman and Omega at All Out. Now it feels like they are legitimately pushing that a little bit later, and All Out is going to be probably centered around CM Punk's return to the ring. And if Omega and Christian are going to wrestle again, that might be a mid-card type of thing, and Darby and CM Punk might close All Out. Wouldn't be surprised at all. So we'll see. The match, though, was good. Seeing Christian with both the titles, and the TNA title, again, was pretty good. He did an interview backstage after the match, putting over Kenny's toughness, and now he's going to head to Impact, I'm sure, to defend that and probably drop that to somebody over there. So you guys put in your predictions to who takes the Impact title off of Christian and when that happens. I don't know how long it's going to be until Impact has a few more fans in their crowd. Maybe you want to wait until then. And how much Christian is really going to be working over there, don't know. But he's the TNA champion again, and that's really weird to say out loud. Devlin's here. What's up, dude? I shouted you out earlier and answered your DM question you had for me. I said that I did not see Barnes, but I definitely saw Silver. And welcome back, dude. Thanks for the $5. 5 more from Michael Kumo as well. Thanks, man. Bold prediction. I think Andrade will win the AAA Mega title from Omega. That's not a bold prediction. That's a pretty likely prediction. I agree with you 100%. I think Andrade takes the title. We got Clofix C back for $2. AEW Horseman Hangman. FTR Spears Flair as Dylan. Okay. I really want to like Sean Spears. I just struggle to. I don't know why. But yeah, he could be in there. I'd be fine with that. I'll give him a chance. We'll give the kid a chance. Why not? Nikita, good to see you, man. Patreon sub in the house. Thanks for the super chat from you as well. I think Omega should lose the AEW title last. Exactly. And collect a couple of defenses, desperation wins, everything he has on the line, and then Hangman. Exactly. We kind of laid out something similar to what you're saying there, as to where he's dropped the Impact, he's going to drop the AAA later, and he's going to start maybe losing the alliance of the Elite and the Bucks and stuff, because we have seen a little bit of problems there just in the last, couple of days. So he can just really be clinging to that. At least, no matter how bad things get, he's got that AEW title. I do think he will now successfully defend against Christian. I think that's a lock, and maybe even come up with a win between now and then on Dynamite perhaps, or something like that, or after All Out, and then you run into Hangman. But that Arthur Ashe show, man, that's got to be it. That's where I'd do it. Unless Hangman's going to take more time than that, to be with his family. But sometimes you only have one opportunity in life, and I've always been a big proponent of take opportunities, choose opportunities over dreams. I think it always works out best that way. So Hangman, obviously everybody wants to be there for the birth of their child, but if you've got an opportunity to, make sure you can put that kid through college, you might want to take that too. So I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. Everybody has the right to choose whatever they want to do when they're in that situation. But Hangman, I am really excited to see him as AEW World Champion. I think he's going to have a good, fun run. Oh, man, Melissa, AEW and WWE together. Shit, couldn't even imagine how that would work, but maybe one day. Also last night, really fun TNT title match. Miro taking on Fuego del Sol, who came into this match at 1:39. He tries to attack Miro before the bell, and Miro, of course, recovers and just beats the piss out of this guy. Now, Fuego had a couple of close calls. There was one near fall where he had on Miro where the referee's hand was an inch away. I thought, because he had him really pinned back on his shoulders. I'm like, he's not going to be able to kick out of that, but he did at the last minute. In the end, of course, he's able to lock in whatever he calls the accolade now. And Fuego, I think Fuego was tapping out before the move was even locked in. Like, as soon as he had it, he's like, oh, I'm dead. He just taps out immediately, and Miro is the man. I love this guy. He's one of my favorite guys and favorite acts in AEW right now. God's favorite champion. His promos are fucking hilarious. This is the Miro I've always wanted to see. This, you always talk about guys like kind of finding their niche or finding something to where you're like, oh, that's it. This is it for Miro. Rusev never did anything for me, I should say, because I'm just not into, that's Vince's old school thinking. Every foreigner is a fucking heel, and they flaunt that. And my country is better than yours and all. It's so played out, and he was showing after he was there a couple of years that despite that evil foreigner gimmick that Vince has slapped on so many guys, there's actually a personality and some charisma under there that they should let get out. And they never really gave it to him. We saw it, but that's just because he was doing it on his own, and there's a character there to be unleashed. And when he came to AEW, what happened? It wasn't that great at first. It felt a lot of like what he was already doing, silly shit in weddings and stuff like that. Once he won that TNT title, and he beat Darby Allin the way he did, and he is such a monster. And now he, the way he puts over Alana in every promo, talking about how she's double jointed and how he sexually pleasures her all the time and that sort of thing. I even saw her, she tweeted out something a couple days ago. She just wrote, he performs miracles on me. I'm like, Jesus, you guys are nasty. Or freaks, I should say. So Miro just tying all that sexual shit and the God stuff into his promos is so good. The white TNT title looks great on him. He's a badass beast in the ring, and his whole entire character, demeanor, and persona, I am loving every bit of it. This is peak Miro in my mind. So just keep doing this. I'm glad he's found his niche. It didn't come right away. He had to play around for a little bit, and that's kind of how things usually naturally progress in wrestling before WWE started changing the whole way the whole fucking system works. But, generally you try a few things until you find what works. Look at every star in history. Mick Foley, Triple H, The Rock, Flex Cavana, who Kevin Owens dedicated his victory last night to, by the way. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Think of the personas, personalities, gimmicks those guys had before they found what works. This is how it used to be done. So I'm really happy to see Miro progress in this way and be such a badass champion. And I'm very curious who the soul will be that actually takes it off of him. Is it going to be somebody smaller that catches him with a quick pin, or is it going to be somebody big that can match him blow for blow, move for move, strength for strength, that sort of thing? What do you guys think? I have no idea. But anyway, the bigger story about this match is actually after it's over, when Miro is done killing poor Fuego, we go to commercial. And as we come back from commercial, Fuego del Sol is just getting up off the mat from the beating he sustained. And as he's getting up, we go to the ramp and we see Tony Khan coming out with Sammy Guevara. And Tony Khan's got some paperwork in his hand. And he gives the paperwork to Sammy, gives him a hug, and sends him out to the ring. Sammy Guevara comes out. He gets on the mic and he goes, hey, you're my best friend, and Tony Khan thought it would be appropriate if I was the one out here to tell you this. He goes, you're like 1 in 50, I think he said, or something like that. Got a huge chuckle out of the crowd. He goes, you're 1 in 50, but you know what? They love you. Everybody in the back loves you. You're my best friend. I love you. And Tony Khan feels, and everybody in management and AEW feel, that you've earned a contract, and here is your contract, and surprised him with a contract. And he signed it right there. The audience applauded. It was a very nice moment. When you watch it, it legitimately feels like it's completely a shoot. Like he didn't see it coming. He has genuine surprise on his face. However, they went to commercial, so clearly somebody had to have said to him, stick around in the ring. And a lot of people have said, well, he was just selling. Yeah, but this isn't a house show. This is live TV that's only an hour. You got to get the fuck out of there. So if you are being told to lay in the ring and sell until after commercial, you have to know something is coming, because otherwise, why the fuck would you ask me to do that? Miro is a badass. We know that, but everybody else he's broken in half hasn't sold for him like that. So he should be able to get out of the ring during the commercial, and he didn't. So somebody had to know what the fuck was going to happen, but apparently they sprung it on him. This was a surprise. He signed his contract, and that's the type of stuff you like to see. 1, 2, 3 Kid kind of got over in a similar way. Of course, he had a victory. I don't know who the one victory for Fuego is. I don't know who he beat, but, Kid had that one victory, and then he got a lot of sympathy from the audience because, he got his ass kicked all the time, and he was being bullied a lot, but he had a ton of heart, and he worked his ass off, and, he ended up getting a job, and the fans just rooted for him, because he was the underdog. So the underdog story always works, and I think when you do little things like this, when you can inject a little bit of realism into a wrestling angle or a wrestling match, the fans are going to pick up on that. The fans are going to appreciate that. And they all were extremely happy for Fuego. It was a nice moment. I'm glad that AEW does these type of things. This is kind of the mentality you see a little bit in NXT as well. That's why I said Triple H would probably, from a booking philosophy, sense, or, somebody who legitimately cares about the future of the business, Triple H fits right in. With AEW in my mind. This seems like something Triple H would do. It is something Triple H has done. He did it earlier this year to Drake Maverick, or last year, whenever it was. They kind of did the same thing, although he cried his way back into a contract. But he still, you can tell he really likes to give people good news. Remember when they did that documentary a few years back on, I think it was on NXT, and it was on ESPN or something like that. And it was when Corey Graves was told that he couldn't wrestle anymore because of the concussions. And Triple H, they showed where Triple H talked to him and offered him a 2-year contract to be an announcer and say, hey, you can't wrestle anymore, but we appreciate your hard work. We see that you have talent. I feel like you have something to offer, in a commentary setting, because you've done very well when we've put you in that position. We want to give you an opportunity. Here's a 2-year deal. It might not work out. You might get behind the commentary booth. You suck. Vince hates you. We release you. But here's that opportunity. And it was a very nice moment. Corey called his wife, I don't think he's with anymore, and told her the news and stuff like that. They offered me a 2-year contract. And now you fast forward and look at Corey Graves is not everybody's favorite, but I think Corey Graves does a really good job on commentary. And he has a pretty good role in WWE. He's a guy, nobody's unreleasable. Prior to the slew of WWE releases, he did feel like an untouchable guy. Not so sure now, because Nick Khan just releases whoever the fuck he wants. But I feel like he's built himself up from that initial, we're going to give you a 2-year contract. It might not work out, but we're at least going to try, to, this is a guy that's probably on a multi-year deal for a lot of money. So these are nice moments. These are things that I think fans can appreciate, get behind, and hey, a little bit of positivity never hurt in wrestling. And that's, unfortunately we live, the fans are just generally very, very negative in general. And I saw a lot of criticisms about the segment and stuff. I'm like, God, is it just impossible, to be happy for anybody? Is it just impossible to appreciate that wrestling can have some positivity in there, can have some nice stories, or some heartwarming moments? Are you so wrapped up in your own bullshit and you're so miserable of a human being that you have to tear that down for no fucking reason? It was a good moment, and it was awesome. Staged or not, doesn't matter. It was awesome. I liked it, and good for Fuego. So we'll see when he gets victory number 2, if that ever happens. I think he should go 1-99, or 1-100, and then start winning after that. That might be fun. And the other match we got was only a 3-match card. We only had time for 3, and that was the main event. Britt Baker in her hometown, looking like the star that she is, defending the AEW Women's title against Red Velvet. Very good match here. Britt Baker defending the title with a broken freaking wrist right there in Pittsburgh, like the badass she is. I think she suffered that broken wrist in the match with Nyla Rose a couple weeks back. But she's the champ. She was awesome in this match. I thought it was pretty good. Red Velvet is very good. She's only going to get better. In the end, Britt, after a couple of reversals, and Red Velvet even, I think, reversed a claw into a pinning predicament at one point, Britt is able to lock in the claw. Red Velvet taps out. All sorts of stuff happens after the match. She continues the beatdown on Red Velvet. Chris Statlander, who's at ringside sitting there, she hops the barricade, jumps in, and gets involved. And then we get a hooded figure jumping in the ring, attacking Statlander, and joining up with Britt Baker to beat down Statlander and Red Velvet. She pulls the hood off to reveal that it's Jamie Hayter. Nobody knows who she is. Nobody in the crowd knew who she was. I remember seeing her on AEW right at the beginning a couple times. I think she was injured. They said she hasn't been on TV in like 2 years. She hasn't been seen in 2 years. So it's been a while. They haven't even been on TV for 2 years, so not quite that long. But a lot of the audience didn't quite know who she was, but she's going to make a pretty good alliance member for Britt Baker. I don't know if Britt's kind of creating a faction here. She has teased that she's wanted more backup. She now has that here. Jamie Hayter's a pretty big, strong woman too. So I think they're going to complement each other well. And it's a good moment for her, but AEW does tend to do the lights out and the hood reveal thing to not too much of a reaction. So far, that hasn't worked many times. Anytime's the light. I remember when Dark Order first appeared, the lights went out, and it was like Stu Grayson and somebody else. Nobody knew who they were, and this was kind of the same thing here. I know they've done the lights up and down for Cody a couple times. It's gotten no reaction, so that was kind of the deal here. But Jamie Hayter is a good talent, and she's going to do well, I think, in that role with Britt Baker. So all in all, good show, fun show, fast show. They didn't bore you with a lot of filler, a lot of nonsense, a lot of bullshit. Yes, we had the commercials, but you just get a really quick, action-packed show that I think is going to be a nice thing to watch after SmackDown. And it's still only 3 hours of wrestling total, and I'll take 2 hours of SmackDown and 1 hour of Rampage over 3 hours of Raw any day of the week, for sure. So I'm looking forward to Fridays going forward. And like I said, once we get on the other side of Labor Day, after All Out and my work schedule kind of settles, I'll be able to have a much more consistent podcast schedule to make sure I'm able to be up here to talk about all these shows: Raw, Dynamite, Rampage, SmackDown, all that stuff. We'll be organizing that, at the end of the summer. I will be up here in 2 days for the Raw review. WWE has advertised Goldberg on Monday. Yippee! Final little showdown with Bobby Lashley. They may come to fisticuffs there, not sure. And we've got a one-on-one match booked between Randy Orton and Omos. And I'm going to assume that on Monday, this will lead to the tag team match being made for SummerSlam, RK Bro versus AJ and Omos. It's got to happen. I think something will happen here. Something will break down. They could go in a crazy direction. They could have, some sort of a schmaz DQ here. AJ gets involved, Riddle gets involved, and then they just do the tag match right there on Raw. and maybe even do a title change and then do a rematch at SummerSlam. They might go crazy. I'm not sure, but I have a feeling this Orton and Omos thing is going to lead to Orton getting beat down, Riddle making the save, the two of them standing tall, and maybe Orton being the one to lay down the challenge since he's kind of been against the whole RK Bro forming, even RKO'd Matt Riddle last week. He can get on the mic and say, him and I, we challenge you for the title, SummerSlam, do it or whatever, and I think the match will be made. So I think Omos should beat Randy Orton some way, either by DQ. Don't beat Omos here, but make sure Omos stays strong here, and then we get the challenge for SummerSlam after the fact. By the way, last week's Raw was up a bit, 1.79 million was the rating for Monday Night Raw this past week, so not horrible. What time we got? All right, I got about 30 more minutes to wrap things up here. Got a few more things to talk about. Number one is NXT. I did not catch any of NXT this week. I caught a little bit of it. I saw the Indy Hartwell stuff. That was cute. And a couple of other things. And I saw the Dragunov promo and Pete Dunne and some of that shit. But overall, on the, after all of these releases happened, I think, if WWE is going to change the identity of NXT, and we're going to see some changes there. I think I'm going to, just for my own sanity and being able to keep up with everything for the YouTube channel and stuff in terms of wrestling, I'm probably going to reduce myself to just eyeballing NXT, watching it if I'm home, reading the results, catching a couple of clips on YouTube, and of course I'm going to give the takeovers my full attention. But from here on out, I don't know. I'm going to reserve the right to not watch NXT, and I didn't really watch it much this week, but I do have the takeover card that I want to run through because it's looking good, really good. Now, despite NXT's problems, we're all bummed out about what's going on behind the scenes, all of the releases, all that stuff. This is a good-looking card. There's going to be some fucking matches on this thing. Two of them specifically are going to be stupidly good, and that's Cole O'Reilly, Walter, Dragunov. Those are going to be some crazy matches. Cross and Samoa Joe are not going to be able to follow those matches. And I think the women's match has potential as well. So we've got the NXT title on the line. Of course, Karrion Kross defending against Samoa Joe. Most people are assuming that Joe's going to take the title here and Kross is going to come up to the main roster so he can lose every other week. We're very much looking forward to that. So we got Joe and Kross. That should be a good main event. But unfortunately, they got to follow some really amazing matches, including the NXT UK title with Walter taking on Dragunov, Part 2. Now, there's been some talk about inserting Pete Dunne here to where he can take the loss. You can put the title on Ilya without having to beat Walter. You kind of see that maybe. If they do that, I haven't seen that officially made yet, so I don't know if they might do that on Tuesday. Not sure. As of right now, it's Walter Dragunov 2. That's kind of what I'd prefer to see, but, Walter is ripe. Walter should be dropping the title at some point so he can do more. Walter, I am extremely... If I was worried about Karrion Kross on the main roster, I'm even more so worried about Walter, because Walter is a great wrestler, but, man, I can see WWE think... Vince is going to think he's Kozlov. I guarantee you. Didn't he already work here? Didn't we have him dancing that time? I fucking swear to Jesus. Vince is going to think he's Kozlov, and he's going to do shit like that with him on the roster. Even if it's a brief push where he's a monster or a badass, that will end. He will be a joke. He will be in the back making smoothies and eating pancakes with a New Day in no time. So I worry about him. But at the same time, he's been champion since 1986, and I think it's time for Walter to drop the belt. So we'll see. Either way, that's match of the year candidate before it even happens. So that'll be fun. Raquel Gonzalez is defending the NXT title against Dakota Kai. Dakota took an L to Aaliyah on main event. Ay. Vince, you fucking morons. Anyway, I don't think Raquel's dropping the belt yet, although I would like to see Dakota Kai win the title. So I'll do my predictions here, I guess, this week. I better knock those out. Yeah, I better knock those out soon. I'm kind of hoping Dakota beats her. I kind of just want to see that. I don't know why. So I'm going to be rooting for Dakota, but if I'm WWE, I'm probably... keeping the ball rolling with Raquel. Plus, we might already have 2 title changes on the show without that one. And, of course, Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole, 2 out of 3 falls match is going to be a wild one as well. There is no word, at least as of yet, that I've heard about any more Adam Cole contract news other than the fact that he had the meeting with Vince at SmackDown. They want him on the main roster. They've offered him some money. balls in his court type of thing. So it just depends. I just think this match is going to be awesome. I would love to see Adam Cole put over Kyle O'Reilly regardless of where he goes, because he's out the door of NXT one way or the other. So put him over here, go to AEW, put him over here, go to Raw or SmackDown. I think if Adam Cole, I'm lightening up now on my stance. Before I was like, what did I say? If Adam Cole stays in WWE, I'll shit a chainsaw. If he stays in WWE, he's probably got a little bit more reassurance. He got it from the man himself. We're going to use you. We're going to do this with you, and we're going to pay you. So if Adam Cole was satisfied in the meeting and he was assured and he feels comfortable with the fact that they're going to use him in a predominant role and they're going to pay him, this is a chance for him to, if WWE's going to go bigger and change their identity, this is his chance to become the modern day Shawn Michaels. He can have some great fucking matches with Seth Rollins and a lot of guys on the main roster, provided he's used right. So if he gets that reassurance and he gets everything he needs contractually, I'm okay with him sticking around. I just think there's so much more story and fun to be had in AEW, but maybe he feels like, he doesn't want to horn in on his girl's territory either. Let her, she's on a big role there, and maybe he doesn't want to, mess that up or whatever, and he might stick around. I don't know. Whatever Adam Cole does, I'm just happy that we're likely going to see him in a pretty big role regardless, because he's either going to go to AEW, and fit right in there like a glove, or he's going to stay in WWE. And according to the reports, Vince is going to use him on the main roster, because you're not going to pay a dude $1 million or more per year, to have him sit on his ass. At least you wouldn't think you would, but this is WWE we're talking about. So we'll see how that progresses. I feel like it should just lead to like a loser leaves town, which I thought might have been the stip added at TakeOver, but it's not. It's 2 out of 3 falls instead. And we've got LA Knight and Cameron Grimes on the card as well. I don't think the title is on the line. I don't think maybe the Butler ship is on the line, or maybe Cameron Grimes doesn't have to be his Butler anymore if he wins. I don't know. But I think if the title's not on the line, Cameron Grimes will beat LA Knight and get away from that whole thing. And like I said earlier, I kind of smell with these two guys, I smell something similar to Ciampa and Thatcher. I think when this is all over, they might find common ground and become a tag team. I wouldn't hate it, because then they could be like they could be like Money Inc. They could be Money Inc. Totally, right? Which one's IRS? I guess Grimes would be IRS. LA Knight would be $1 Million Man. And then the real $1 Million Man could manage them. They should reform Money Inc. with Knight and Cameron Grimes. That's a great idea, Greg. You should hire me. Damn, I'm a genius. Yes, Money Inc. needs to return. So if that ends up happening, remember, you heard it here first. I just want to briefly touch on Dynamite, because a lot of what we saw on Dynamite, we had Rampage last night, so some of the stuff is obsolete, but there was some interesting stuff on the show, including the main event, the 4th Labor of Jericho. It was Jericho taking on Wardlow. Now, the stipulation here in this match was what? What the fuck was the stip here against Wardlow? I forgot what the stipulation even was. Anyway, he's just got to face Wardlow. So MJF is at ringside. Earlier on in the night, they kind of picked back up that teasing of Wardlow and MJF splitting, because MJF is cutting a promo and Wardlow is assuring him that he's going to beat Jericho. And he's like, what, like you beat Cody in the cage? Or said some sort of snide comment, and Wardlow like squeezes the apple. Like, he's going to go full Alex Riley on MJF at some point. So in the main event, MJF is out there and he tries to give Wardlow the diamond ring shit. Referee sees it, tosses out MJF. In that distraction, Jericho is able to take a baseball bat and wallop Wardlow with it and hit him with the Judas effect for the win. So he beats Wardlow, which means he now gets his match against MJF. That's not going to be at All Out. That's actually going to be on TV next week. So after the match, Shawn Spears immediately hits the ring. Sammy Guevara and Jake Hager come out, and there's all sorts of fighting going on. When the dust settles, you get MJF on the ramp saying that next week, when he faces Chris Jericho, there is a big stipulation for the 5th Labor. There's actually 2 big stipulations. The first one is that he cannot use the Judas effect. He's won every Labor of Jericho with the Judas effect, so he's not going to be able to use that. And also, since there's no Judas effect, there's also no Judas song. So he has to come out there to no music, and the fans aren't going to be able to sing Judas during his entrance, which I think is really funny because what the fans are going to do is they're going to sing it anyway, and that should be pretty funny, especially if they can all be in sync. It's going to be really hard. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know if they're going to do a karaoke style and like have the lyrics on the screen or on the Tron or something, or how if the fans can all start together. I would love to hear them do the dun 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 dun. That would be so funny. I don't know why it reminds me of this, but still to this day, the funniest shit I think the fans have ever done that still cracks me up anytime I go back and watch a clip of it. I love it. I'm in love with it. I love it, love it, love it. Was when Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler had the Iron Man match, and every time the timer counted down, like every 10 seconds, or every minute, the fans were counting 10, 9, 8. And when they would get to 0, they would all collectively do the sound, which is the funniest shit. I did not think wrestling fans had that good a sense of humor because they all got sticks up their asses, most of them. So that was so funny. So if the crowd can sing everything, even with the guitar notes and everything like that, will be really fun. Maybe Jericho gets them started. That wouldn't surprise me if Jericho sings with them. That's probably what they'll do, I think, is Jericho, because he didn't say he can't sing. So Jericho will just come out and sing it himself with the help of the audience. Hell, maybe he brings Fozzy. I mean, well, I guess if there's no music, you can't do a live performance, but maybe you can have like Fozzy set up in the corner. You said I can't play my music, Jericho, but you didn't say I can't live perform it or whatever. And then a curtain raises and then Fozzy's there. They start jamming out and they do it anyway. That could happen. But I think Jericho just coming out and getting the fans started singing the song, they will sing him completely to the ring. And it'll be funny to hear how long it lasts. Like, can the audience sustain it? Can they really sing the whole song? You know, how the fans used to sing Sami Zayn's song and shit. Funny stuff. So I can't wait to see that next week, or see that on Dynamite this week, I should say, to see what goes on with Jericho and MJF. So that was pretty funny. That was probably the biggest news coming out of Dynamite, along with Darby Allin defeating Daniel Garcia. Now he had 2.0, formerly Everrise, get involved out there with Sting again like they did the week before, and they've set up a tag match from Dynamite this week. So Everrise got the biggest gift in the world when they were released from WWE, because they are on Dynamite now in the ring with Sting. What if you told those two guys that 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? Yo, you're going to be wrestling Sting in a couple of weeks. What the fuck are you talking about? You know, so that's pretty crazy where life can take you sometimes. I don't think either member of that tag team would have thought they'd be in this situation. And they're incredibly entertaining. And I think that was a big mistake for WWE to let them go. Because a couple weeks ago when it was, forgot which one it was, that was out there with Sting, and he's like, "Are you the real Sting? You're the real Sting." That was so funny. Now they get to have a match with him. So Sting's going to wrestle on TNT this week against 2.0 alongside Darby Allin. That might be, if we get any sort of CM Punk tease, we might just get a little funny video blip on the Tron or something, and you know, maybe with an initials or maybe the 3 stars or the CM Punk logo or something like that, you know, if they want to announce it. But I think it's best left alone and just let it happen naturally. I think that's what we need. You know, this is a big deal for wrestling fans. We've been mentioning CM Punk. CM Punk is mentioned every day on every podcast for the past 7 years. So it should be a pretty big deal when he returns, and it'll be interesting to see how AEW goes about either announcing this or the lack thereof. We'll see. Cute little Death Triangle promo. Pac learning a little bit of Spanish, which was kind of funny, pumping up Penta and Phoenix to go after the tag team titles. And, you know, they've been doing a lot of this back and forth with Andrade. Of course, Andrade is too stupid to understand that Penta and Phoenix don't work for Pac, but he thinks they do. And he keeps saying, "You should come work for me." And they keep telling him over and over, "We don't work for him. We're just bros." What the fuck? So they've been kind of tying into that a little bit lately, and Pac now has gone out of his way to learn a little bit of Spanish to help communicate more with his friends, which is a really nice gesture on his part. Makes me wonder that in a couple of hours here, when Andrade might have a little bit of gold around his waist, that they might turn on Pac. And we're going to get that at All Out, correct? Andrade versus Pac at All Out. Might be a title on the line. That could be when you do the turn. I think Penta and Phoenix might actually wind up joining Andrade when this is all over. That's kind of what my instinct tells me, especially since Pac now is setting himself up for heartbreak. like learning the Spanish there. Now, if he's betrayed, that could be fun, especially if he's betrayed when he's got a chance to win a championship. Could even be more so. And then Andrade can win it all out. You keep Pac strong. You now give Andrade a whole lot of backup to go along with Chavo and Vicky if she's still around. And you got Pac now scorned, angry, out for revenge, and on his own, which he can be a very dangerous man on his own. So I kind of like where all this is headed, and my gut tells me that Penta and Phoenix will turn on Pac eventually. I could be wrong, but that's kind of what I think. Hardy Family Office picked up the win against Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor, and Wheeler Yuta, who just came in, fresh off a little stint in NXT. Kind of cool to see him. Really enjoyed the hands in the pocket shit with Matt and Cassidy. When Cassidy put Matt's hands in his own pocket. Funny shit there. Hardy hits Twist of Fate to the end for the win in that match and got the win for the heels. We had Chris Statlander getting a big win over Nyla Rose. She looks like she's coming up in line for a shot at Britt Baker. That's probably going to be her all-out match as well. And other than that, that's all I really wanted to mention about Dynamite. Oh, and of course, did you guys see the trailer for Roads to the Top? It's going to be a reality show featuring Cody and Brandy. Oh boy, this is so bad. I cannot believe they're doing this. My God, what, just fucking stroking their egos, please. We already get the Miz and Maurice. They do a pretty good job on that show. Rhodes and Cody and Brandy are going to eat this shit up. They are so full of themselves. And now we're going to have an entire reality show based on them. I don't know if this is a series or if this is just a mini series or if it's one big documentary. I don't know. But it's going to be very self-indulgent. There's going to be a lot of tears shed. And there's going to be a lot of two people thinking that fans overestimating how much the fans care about their lives. I'm going to put it like that. But Cody, I love you. Everybody knows I love Cody. So that should be funny. And like I said, Dynamite did do a small drop in viewership, just under 1 million here at 989,000. As long as they're at that million range, you're going to see dips. You're going to be 10, 20K over, 10, 20K under. It's going to happen all the time. As long as they can keep it in that vicinity of 1 million people, I think that's kind of what they're shooting for. And over 1 million would be nice. So 11,000 more people better tune in next week so they can keep those numbers up. All we have right now, it looks like for All Out, is Christian and Kenny for the AEW title and Andrade and Pac. So that's all we got there. I better bring up SmackDown because we're running out of time, man. I thought 2 hours would be enough for me to get this done, but it's not really. SmackDown, we're just going to briefly run through because a couple of big things did take place on the show, including the awesome segment between Roman Reigns and John Cena. They, of course, they went personal on this. Roman Reigns bringing up Nikki Bella. And John Cena dropping a couple of interesting lines about Roman Reigns running Dean Ambrose out of the WWE and ruining Seth Rollins. So Dean Ambrose's name got brought up. So we had Nikki Bella and Dean Ambrose shouted out in the promo there. And the funniest line was when Cena was talking to Roman, and he goes, "You're not going to win the title for me. You and those bars of soap you got for teeth," which fucking popped me huge. Bars of soap you've got for teeth. I was deceased after that. But Cena also, I thought they both did a good job in the promo. I was maybe expecting a little bit more since they were kind of hyping up this face-to-face meeting between the two. But I almost wished we got a little bit more out of them than what we did. But some interesting stuff was still said. Fans ate it up. They need that type of stuff for two guys just to trade insults and get personal and all that to set up their match. And like I said, Cena said a couple of really interesting things, including one thing to Paul Heyman when he said, "You know better than anybody how tough I am. I can take a beat and still coming back." He's probably referencing the 2014 SummerSlam match against Brock Lesnar when Brock just destroyed him, but he kept kind of kicking out, and Brock eventually did squash him. But Cena, keeps coming, especially against guys like Brock. So he's basically saying, Roman, you are not going to be able to handle me the way you think you are, and I'm going to humble you. You need to be embarrassed. That's what needs to happen to somebody like you with this big of inflated ego. Somebody's got to bring you back down to earth. I'm just the guy to do it. You don't know who you're fucking with. And what's interesting here is they're not referencing too much of their previous feud. They should have. I don't know why it's not being brought up. That Roman's not like, I already beat you before when I was like a wuss. Now I'm the man. You think and now you're older. I should have an easier time beating you now than I did 4 years ago. But they're not really mentioning that at all, probably just because they want to keep the suspense up for the match. But John Cena mentioned CM Punk as well, teasing that he's going to do what CM Punk did. He goes, I'm going to take your title and I'm going to leave and go out the door to go make movies, maybe even blow you a kiss goodbye, which was crazy. John Cena might actually do that. And like I said earlier, with Ric Flair heading to AEW, according to the reports, we know he's going to do that. He's not going to give up that WWE money to sit on his ass. He's going to go to AEW. So that is all but guaranteed. Maybe it's WWE's way of just saying, we'll end his record before he even gets over there. And then they actually put the belt on John Cena. He actually beats Roman Reigns, and then maybe Roman Reigns, in turn, will beat him back for it. That could happen now. I wasn't thinking that was an option, but now I kind of think that it is. So what do you guys think? Does Cena have a chance or not? I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility anymore that he wins the title. I think he could. I think Big E could also cash in the Money in the Bank. Maybe Corbin hangs on to the briefcase until SummerSlam and then tries to cash it in, but it doesn't count because it doesn't belong to him, and then Big E runs in and beats the fuck out of Corbin, grabs the briefcase, and then he takes advantage and cashes in. That's a very good possibility of happening as well. So we'll see, but I was kind of dismissing the Roman and Cena match at SummerSlam up until now because I didn't really think it was realistic for Roman to drop the belt, and I kind of still don't think it is. But I'm starting to change my tune a little bit, and maybe there's a chance that Cena could actually win the title. And if he did, at least right now, I wouldn't hate it. I'd be interested to see where it goes, especially if Cena leaves for a few weeks to go wrap up the filming of that movie. And then Heyman and Roman can be just bitching about it on TV. This motherfucker left and all that. So, and it could have a tie-in. Roman could drop some shade, unintentional shade on The Rock, which could plant the seeds of a future match there. How dare you take the title and never fucking be here? That could be throwing shade at Rock and Brock for that matter. So, could tie into a lot there. There could be more story. Basically what I'm saying is there could be more story to tell with Cena winning rather than losing. So keep an open mind. That's all I'm saying. We have a brand new Intercontinental Champion. Apollo Crews' run has come to an end at a match with Shinsuke Nakamura and lost the IC title. This surprised me a little bit. Nakamura won with the Kinshasa to win his second Intercontinental title. I hope they have a nice little run for him. I think Apollo Crews' kind of run has kind of cooled off a bit, even though I've really liked what he's done. I think he's in a better position than he was before this. I just hope this doesn't lead to a huge downslide with Apollo Crews where we're not seeing him on TV for weeks at a time and shit. So best of luck to him. I'm sure he's going to get a rematch next week because of course he is, or SummerSlam or something like that. But feels like they're going to go with Nakamura. Nakamura and Boogs are a fun act. Everybody likes them, and they decided to go with them. So we will see. The Street Profits picked up a win against Alpha Academy. A little bit of a tease there that Montez might be thinking about turning. I can see that. I can see Montez becoming a single star because he's superb and he'd be great. And I've always been worried about Dawkins. I don't want to see him turn into Tucker, but I think Dawkins has a little bit more to offer to Tucker, and I think Dawkins would fit right in with Alpha Academy. So that might be something they could do if they do split the profits up. I think they're going to split the Mysterios as well, as Rey Mysterio's giving Dominic all sorts of shit. They beat the Dirty Dogs, but Rey is kind of giving Dominic some tough fatherly love, and I think Dominic's going to eventually get pissed and beat the shit out of his dad at some point. I enjoyed Seth Rollins' promo, wearing a suit made from my grandmother's couch. Very cool there, hyping up his match with Edge. I'm really excited to see that one. And like I mentioned earlier, Baron Corbin and Owens had a segment. Corbin's got a phone now that's on his mom's family plan, which is funny. He wants $1,000 from Kevin Owens. He even expresses worry that he's got one of those card swipers or card readers on his phone, and he's worried that Kevin Owens' Canadian credit cards wouldn't be accepted. But Owens is like, okay, I'll give you $1,000 if you can beat me in a match. But if you don't beat me, then all of this stuff has to stop. If I win, then no more of this. Stop being pathetic. You can't come out here begging for money anymore. Corbin agrees. He gets beat with a sunset flip on nearly the anniversary, the day before the anniversary of when Kevin Owens was signed by WWE. And he dedicated the victory to Flex Cavana, and The Rock responded. Very cool on Twitter to see that. And after the match, they show Corbin going backstage. He's just lost by a sunset flip, so he's even more pissed. And he's just really down, really depressed, and he's walking, sauntering through the backstage area, and he notices Big E. He's over at the seamstress table or something, getting some work done. The briefcase is sitting there. Corbin runs and grabs it and runs off with the briefcase. So now I guess, Big E's got to chase him down, try to get him back. I hope the rule isn't whoever finders keepers with the briefcase. I hope that's not it. because that's a really stupid rule to have, or if this is going to lead to some sort of a match for the briefcase or whatever. But I could see a situation, since we are just a week away from SummerSlam, for Corbin to hang on to the briefcase, go into hiding, turn up at SummerSlam and attempt to cash it in. Maybe even successfully doing it, but then learning that it's invalid because it was never his briefcase to begin with, and he could be celebrating with the title, thinking that all of his problems are over, and then he could be attacked from behind by Big E, thrown out of the ring. Big E then picks up the briefcase that rightfully belongs to him, and then he cashes it in, and then Big E wins the title, and then he celebrates in Corbin's face. That could be funny too. I think something like that might play into to SummerSlam there. We'll see. Main event segment last night, I believe, was a contract signing. It was okay. Sasha and Bianca, they both said some things. Sasha brought out Carmella and Zelina Vega as witnesses. Big brawl ensues. Bianca takes them all out, but Sasha is able to take advantage in the numbers game and beat down Bianca Belair. And, of course, that match is at SummerSlam. And the card is looking like this for SummerSlam. Of course, we've got Roman Reigns versus John Cena for the Universal title. We've got the Raw Women's title on the line in a triple threat. Nikki Ash versus Ripley versus Charlotte Flair. We've got Bobby Lashley defending the WWE title against Goldberg. SmackDown titles on the line, tag titles that is. The Usos defending against Rey and Dominic. That could be a good spot for the split, considering Rey once fought for custody of Dominic on this very show. Would be interesting if they split up on this very show. Look for that. SmackDown Women's title, of course, on the line. Contract is signed. Bianca Belair defending against Sasha Banks. We've got Edge versus Seth Rollins. Damian Priest and Sheamus for the U.S. title has been made official as of this week. So has Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 matches we've got for SummerSlam. Probably going to add another 1 or 2 and a kickoff match, I'm sure. And and there you go. SummerSlam is upon us here in just 1 week from today, actually, and I will be there in the Vegas. I am running out of time, so I'm going to have to bail out of here now, but I do want to knock out the super chats that were coming in while I was flapping. Miro does have a great sense of humor. I agree. Yeah, Devlin, I'm kind of with you. RIP NXT. I'm going to eyeball NXT, but giving it my undivided attention. You know, what's the point when you get invested in somebody and then they just release them? And I think that's one of the fans' biggest gripes is that WWE, it's all their own doing. They didn't have to do this to NXT. If they just would have utilized people to their potential when they got to the main roster, none of this shit would even really be necessary. NXT would still be running hard. Whatever. Diamond Vibes 27. Thanks for the $5. College roommate got me into AEW. Also been watching you since I was 13 and now 21. Holy shit, bro. 13 to 21, 8 years. I'm happy to have you for all these years and to be around for a third of your life. Feels pretty good. Good to see you, Diamond Vibes. Thank you for that. Zane G, $10 from you. Thank you so much. What about Reigns losing the title, Cena leaving the title with him, Reigns promo shooting, name-dropping The Rock, prompting a Rock return, building to Survivor Series? Cena, leaving the title with him, like leaving with the title. The Rock apparently is going to be working Survivor Series, so we'll have to see if that's a tag team affair or if that's something to build up a WrestleMania match is what I think they'll be using that for. So that's a good scenario too. As long as The Rock's involved in anything, I'm a pretty happy guy. So anyway, I have got to get out of here now. We had a nice big 2-hour stream, but if I don't stop talking, I'm going to be late for work and I'm going to get in all kinds of trouble. But anyway, you guys take care. Have a great rest of your Saturday. Make sure you are here tomorrow for the SummerSlam watch-along. You can catch that link in the description below, or you can go over to my page right now and see it. Just give it a like, save it for tomorrow, and we will watch one hell of a SummerSlam together. Kurt Angle, Rey Mysterio. We've got Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Brock versus Rock, Triple H versus Jericho. I'm sorry, Flair versus Jericho, I think, is on there. A lot of good matches on SummerSlam 2002. It's going to be fun to watch that tomorrow on its 19-year anniversary, or close to it anyway. You guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll catch you